use most of it.
Do we have to tell our security guy again?
Yeah. So we're underway for the park committee meeting on September 29th, 7 o'clock. I did not have a chance to review the minutes. I was traveling and just got really busy. But does anybody else have any comments? or
The
should
only
we-
comment I have, Bernie, to the minutes is that for the next meeting, the date is incorrect. It should be September 29th, not June 29th.
Okay, that's an easy fix.
Going back to the future.
Hey, Bernie.
Yes,
Oh, sorry. I would like to request, if possible, some time to talk about some of the links that I sent. I'm curious what folks thought about any of those links, or possibly a written essay, just a few pages, or a few paragraphs that I believe you may have written copies of.
Yeah, I'm not even see ours.
yes, we have, Jay, we have written copies. We just received them as we were walking in the door. I've got through about 2/3 of it. I did review the links. But yeah, we can certainly allot some time for that.
Thank you.
So as far as the minutes, any other comments
The
on
only
them?
thing I noticed was talking about where people park their cars, it said Sanborn and I think they also mentioned Brandy Court, remember?
You talking about the minutes?
In the minutes, right? Wasn't that what we
Yeah,
were talking about?
that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
I don't have it with me. Do you have the minutes?
Yep.
It's right here, it says Sanborn and Haven. It should also say Brandy Court.
Okay. So we can make that correction. Just trying to open it now. But just, okay. Okay, so Brandy Court, just add that after Haven Street. And then June 29th for the meeting. Okay. Got it. No. All right, so I need a motion to accept the minutes
Make
as
a motion
revised.
to accept the minutes
Second.
of,
All in favor? Okay, Jay? All right, is there anybody else online that we know of? Can you tell that, Jean, or do we have to ask her?
Jackie, just doing the minutes. She's
Okay.
with us.
No members from the public?
No.
Okay. We can call for meeting, we usually try to call for any input from the public, but it doesn't look like we have anybody present or online, so we'll keep that as an open item for the rest of the meeting in case somebody joins. I did, late today, I got the most recent survey results. So I don't know if anybody had a chance, again, those were very late, I don't know if they even got out to everybody, did they? I sent it to Andrews, I sent it to Andrew and then maybe you
I
and,
don't.
I don't think so, no.
No, I just got the minutes and the agenda.
okay. Yeah, I got them, I think she was just waiting because we were getting so many responses today that she just wanted to get as many as we could. But it's a fairly good response. We have a lot of written comments that I think are worth trying to go through. We probably want to review those for the next meeting. And I guess one of the things that, Gene, I don't know if you have those. I think I might have emailed them to you. If you have them, that's great. If not, I can try to go through one of the items that we asked for is how much time do people spend when they're parking? And I thought that what was interesting is that I think it was close to 80% of the people were less than 2 hours. Let me just see if I can find that.
Defined parking?
No, the
How
time,
long they're there.
the time that
That they're
they
using
parked.
parking, I see,
Yeah.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, that's not
I may have it. Let's see if I can,
coming.
I'm not showing him, okay, good.
Yeah, it's question 6.
Yeah, I think I have it.
Great. And it, well, she's bringing it up, but basically from 2 hours and below, you get, well, from less than 15 minutes, 25% of the people, which I thought was quite a lot. 15 to 30 minutes, 45%. I think that these all add up to 100 is the problem. So we'll have to do some analysis on that because, well, yeah, it doesn't look like it adds up to 100, so something might be funky. But we have 308 respondents to that question. And it's coming up here. There it is. So if you see that was kind of surprising to me. I would have guessed.
I never would have thought under 15 minutes was that high.
Yeah, so we have to just look at the responses and just make sure that they're good. But I mean, I think if you go down a little bit further on the page, it shows you the percentages by category. And this is what I don't quite understand about this, is you get 24 and 45. So you get like 80.
More than 40%.
Just the two of them,
So maybe people are checking off
They might
every
be-
type of, like, I might
When
run
they
down
go-
sometimes to pick up a whatever, but other
for a
times I
hair
go.
appointment or a
Yeah, right.
barber, I go for more. So we'll have to just try to dig a little bit deeper on that. But even if they don't add up to 100, the fact is that a lot of it is basically less than 2 hours, and the 2 to 4 is very small. It's only like, I don't want to quote the percentage because we have to do a little bit more work on it. What I'm more surprised about is the greater than 6 hours. So it's probably the commuters are just not filling these out. Or they're not, we asked them to fill out the survey, assuming that you're back into your post-COVID world. But it's not clear that maybe they're anticipating that, or if they are, they're saying, I'm never gonna take the train again, which I kind of feel a little bit.
I think that some people don't actually consider parking at the train being downtown, even though it is the edge of downtown. I think that's an interpretation of what the question means.
Also,
Yeah.
maybe the employees that park didn't get a good turnout on filling the,
Yeah, I think if you go,
Yeah, because for me, I would see the over 6 hours for it going out to Reading residents. You're gonna have to put people that live in Reading who work in Reading, which seems like a rare kind of addition, but you would think that more people who work in Reading don't actually live in Reading, who then didn't fill out the survey because they never even knew about it. I guess that's how I could interpret this as well.
I think that a lot of the people that came in today were non-Reading residents who filled it out as well. And that may have been the Chamber of Commerce catchment.
Yeah.
But,
I agree that people could easily not think that, the train station is downtown, because they're thinking of downtown as going to like a business or something like that. So I could see how they may not fill that one out, and that might be lower. Also wonder if we're happy with these results. Like if most people are only spending 15 to 30 minutes, I mean, it seems like they're coming in, getting one thing, and then going. And so is that kind of the downtown we want, or should we try to think of ways to push people to be longer?
So Jay, I think that's an excellent question that is kind of not the purview of this committee. And I have another committee that I'd be happy to suck you into that would love some thoughts on that. But that's, the people assembled here are supposed to be solving a parking problem, not a what do we want our downtown to be problem. And I shouldn't even say problem. Opportunity and assessment,
Yeah.
because our downtown is actually good and our parking is not as bad as people think. say
I
it.
agree.
I mean,
Yeah, because I love, like Jay, I'm like I have drunk the Kool-Aid on, I checked out my own copy of the Walkable City, and I love all the stuff that you've been sending, and I am like 100% on board with like, how can we improve and activate our downtown in 1,000 ways? It's just not the purview of this committee to do it. And we've got a like timeline, we're supposed to like solve some, make some parking recommendations by the end of December, and I think we need to try to focus on some of that. And then I think some of the things that come out of this that talk about some of the things you're wanting to address, it's like, yeah, there are other places, there are other committees and efforts where that kind of information is going to be extremely useful and helpful, but I don't think this is it.
Okay.
yeah, there are, and on question 3, there is a little bit of an answer to that question. I think unfortunately, the combination of the question, I have to go look at how we phrased it.
Question 3?
Yeah, question 3 is maybe also a bit confusing in the sense that where is question 3? In here.
I traveled to Reading for.
Yeah, my commute to or from work or shopping in downtown. Work, shopping in other areas of Reading and other. So work and shopping is sort of two things. So clearly it's the most answered question. However, we don't know if they're going downtown to work because they work there, or like commute to and from work. I think that would be more, okay, I'm going down to the park at the train station because I'm commuting to or from work, unless I am commuting to work because I work downtown.
I interpreted that as that.
As I work downtown.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't even dawn on me doing this survey that it had anything to do with commuting to Boston,
Yeah,
which it just could be that it was vague for me and I didn't.
yeah, well, that's the thing about these questionnaires, everybody reads them according to their own personal interpretation of what it means for them. So it does have
Right. So it's open.
like, for me, I'd say I go there mostly like a few times a week to commute to work, park,
That's so
take the
funny, I
train,
didn't look
commute
at
to
it at
work.
all.
But anyway, I think that
Can I see a blank of that, Bernie, the survey?
I don't have a blank, but I have.
Oh,
How about
But it has the questions on it.
yeah, I just wanted to see
I
what
give
number
you-
3 was, why it looks like it got doubled up on work.
I think that if you, oops, that's.
Brian, just hand him one of the big print ones that I.
Yeah, but it
that's
doesn't
easier.
have the same, it's not, they're not numbered.
Oh, they aren't.
But you'll still probably be able to find the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I travel to Reading for my commute to or from work. So this person checked
Oh,
off
all right.
both, work/shopping in downtown Reading.
That's why it's doubled.
So they do both,
Right.
which is, that's, I think that's what we just want them to, I think that was the idea behind a lot of our, by the design is we wanted people to just blast out everything that they use it for. And that, but hopefully, we'll get a little bit more response. I think the problem, I think that we're facing is we have like 300 responses. The prior surveys were up in the 1,500 plus range. And we're trying to do better than the 1,500. So we were trying to expire the survey the 2nd of October, which is in a couple of days. So I'm just not sure that we shouldn't
Can we do another
extend
week?
it.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably have to
Because I
do.
didn't finish all the ones, I only did
Yeah,
like 4
and I
streets, so.
I think we're still trying to get it out to the town meeting members. I don't know that I haven't received anything. I don't know if I just missed it.
So what happens with the town meeting members is we are not privy to any of that. That's all handled by the town clerk. So I don't know, I can find out where that's
Okay.
at. But any requests that we get for distributing to town meeting members, that all has to go through the town clerk.
So we just have to contact Laura to get to request
Andrew
it.
may have forwarded it, I don't
Okay.
know, but
All right.
I can follow up tomorrow.
Okay, that would be great. I think that would be probably our best shot at getting a lot of people, because the town meeting members, in theory, should be able to get it out to their neighborhood people. That would be the ideal. And if we could do that, within the next couple of weeks, even if we wait for another 3 weeks, I think we could probably get more response. I think that would be the goal anyway, I would hope.
I think with 192 members like that, times 10 people each or something, like
That's all
just
you need.
seems, yeah,
Most of the people are.
That seems what?
like plausible for us to get that amount.
I mean, I'm a town meeting member and I will certainly share the survey, but it's like, I am literally trying to hand this survey to people in my store all day,
yeah.
every day, and they will not do it. So I don't know that you can assume each town meeting member is gonna be able to
I'm
get 10
going with
people
the
to-
average of what I would expect, like 10. If, I don't know if each precinct has a head of a precinct that has everyone's emails, or if that even
No,
exists.
absolutely not.
So,
Did they say why they don't want to fill it out?
No, they're just, they look at it, they're just like, no, I mean,
I got too many other things to do.
it's not, nobody's rude about it, but they're just, I'm like, oh, it'd be really great if you could, and they're like, oh, no. A lot of people are like, haven't I done this before already? And my answers are still the same, and, whatever.
I have a couple in mind, I've asked them, and they start and then they flip it, and they just felt it, it's 2-3 pages,
Yeah, it's too
it's
long.
too long.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to try and keep it on one page, which, on a.
I mean, it's the same as last year's one. It filled one, or the prior
Yeah, it
years, it
is.
filled one page.
It is on one page. It is on the back and forth.
Yeah,
So we tried our best to do it that way. And on the online version is actually pretty good. So
Yeah, I
if
mean,
you
that's
just do
easier for
this or
people to
that,
just feel like.
Yeah.
they can go-
boom, 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 you can
Yeah.
get through it really quick.
yeah.
So hopefully we can get more. In the meantime, I mean, we can go through more of this if you want, spend maybe 5-10 minutes going through each question just to kind of review it. And then I think we can maybe get to items on our agenda items like 4, which is just, question 4 is part of the same thing, but are there any other, I guess on agenda item 4, we were just looking for people to maybe report back on any other outreach that you may have done to other people that we talked about earlier in our prior meetings, like churches, other business owners, people that own private parking, whether they're interested in doing anything, becoming more flexible about people using their spaces and things like
All right,
that.
so are we done with item 3, or do you
No,
want?
no, I just
So let's
wanna
do that
try to
before we talk
anticipate.
about what 4.
So,
It's just, so I would suggest that we hit some
Start.
some
Yeah.
highlights on this survey, but if we're gonna keep it open, let's not dwell on it too much. But I also think that when we get to a point, we should compare what data we have with the previous surveys, and if the trends are all similar or the same, then I don't think we need to leave this thing open forever. I don't think anybody's expecting any huge surprises. So unless something looks dramatically different, like, oh, all of a sudden, now everybody is parking downtown for 8 hours and they're only going there to hula hoop, right? Like, there's no, unless anything seems shocking, I don't know that we need to keep surveying and surveying and surveying if the trends or the answers are consistent with what we've seen in the past. And we should focus more on other
Yep.
outreach initiatives besides just surveys.
yeah, to Liz's point, I would like to see how we got the certain percent in that under 15-minute bracket. If we can narrow it down to, we have it where it's tied, where they selected less than 15 minutes, and then how their other answers were, right?
Yeah.
So we can find out if they were,
yeah. I believe that each survey is saved, each survey response is saved. And I think if you go, when we start going through the individual comments, we won't go through all the individual comments, but they're all numbered, and I think that is, the number on that is associated with whoever filled in the survey. I mean, yeah, the survey response.
because, yeah, to me, to Liz's point, that's the one that sticks out, so I'd like to see what it was
Yeah,
in the prior
Do you
survey.
think we could go from like question 1 and just kind of flip? There aren't that many questions, we can get it done in 10 minutes, and then we'll just keep ourselves open. And, I know that we can get all the gory detail, that's what I was told, so we can get like all that data, which I think is what we really want, is to say, okay, this person clicked on 2 boxes. And does that align with, they come down for shopping and post office or something, so that might account for both. So that's question 1. So this was interesting. I don't know if this is the demographics of Reading or just the people that visit downtown, but quite a lot of people are above 45. Um,
35.
That's, yeah, above, well, 35 to 44,
Mhm.
and then 45 and up, I thought that, and then 55 to 64, 65 plus. I thought those were a little bit surprising to me. But anyway, that's kind of that, and then we can maybe just keep flipping through. These are all the streets that people live on. I don't know how we're gonna make some sense of this unless we somehow. But here you see there's some, I think the most recent ones may be from the Chamber's response. I think we've gone over this question. And then there are a lot of interesting comments. I think I started breezing through these real quickly. But I think by having these open-ended statements with each question, I think that was really helpful. And I think when we have questions about the percentages or anything like that, we can actually go through, there's a lot of people filled in a lot of responses to those open things, which I thought was great. These are how many people have different stickers. I think to your comment, Dan, this last bar on the bottom, oh, that was just no, okay, but there are a number of people, the employees definitely were filling this out, if you notice that bottom one, but obviously most people aren't employees, but I thought there were interesting residents, and the compost, I thought seemed to be the bigger, or more favored stickers. And that includes people who bought both as well. And then this is whether people thought those permits were useful. I thought it was interesting. I think a lot of people had the downtown free was not one that people had, but they thought it was useful, or the permit is needed.
Do we think that they know what that meant?
We tried to explain it,
Okay.
but because we definitely separated out. You see the way it says downtown resident free? So that permit is free, and then the other one is paid, and the compost is paid. So hopefully the people understood it that way. So this is where you see a little bit more. This is the same data, just in a table. So like the overwhelming number of people basically drive downtown, and I would think that the people who responded to walking, they must live downtown, right?
No, if, like, for me, I would respond to both, driving and walking, because I live a mile from downtown, and I work
Okay.
downtown, and I drive some days and I walk other
Yeah,
days.
okay,
And I know a lot of my employees do the same.
great, okay. Yeah, so I mean, it was good that we have a lot of people walking. I think that was I was surprised, I think.
I thought other would be more than walking, because people on bikes or whatever.
Did we have that on the question?
Yeah, I think it was
We
other.
had non-motorized vehicle.
Yeah, non-motorized
Yeah,
vehicle.
so the yellow would be bikes or skateboards or scooters.
And public transportation, I guess that would be, I take a bus downtown. That's the only other way I think
Yeah.
you could do it, right?
Yep.
Some of that.
Uber or something.
Ride share is there. Very few. So I think we covered that question reasonably well. But it's pretty clear that most people drive down. This, I think we already talked about. I think we can analyze this a little bit better to make sure we go through the individual responses to see if we can make better sense of that. Most people are alone, or one person with kids, so I guess the kids might be just different appointments downtown, I suppose.
Well, or they bring their kids to a restaurant, or they bring their kids to go shopping,
Yeah.
or they bring their kids to,
With their babies?
Sure.
Yep.
And this also was interesting to me, that people made more than one stop, so 2 and 3 is not unusual.
Mhm.
And then I think we get into the, how do they get from one stop to the next? A lot of people walk. And driving, but I thought that's a good answer. And then there's a lot of comments here. And there's this, how long does it take to find spaces?
Over
That's,
15 minutes.
Right, those people
I
are
don't-
dreaming. You
I
can
don't-
drive around for 15 minutes
Even
downtown if you
even I
try.
don't agree with that, but perhaps it's true.
it's, yeah.
I wonder if that's somebody sitting at a light, you know? Is,
That's
to
a
get to
long
15
light.
minutes
That's
is,
a long
Yeah,
line.
you
Well, it could be
Jesus
somebody
Christ.
just double parking and waiting. Maybe they're counting that as driving around, sitting in Brandy Court or sitting in CVS lot where the spots are full, and they're sitting there waiting for somebody to pull out.
It happens
I'm
all the
saying if
time.
you're waiting that long versus just like pull
Yeah.
through and park on Haven and walk back, for the love of God.
Right.
yeah,
It's
it happens
funny.
all the time. There's always a delivery truck there or something.
Yeah.
And people do, they just pull over. I'm like, what?
It's probably just a few minutes, but it feels like a half
It
hour.
feels, that's the thing, I think it's a
Yeah, and
perception.
maybe you're right.
Even sitting and waiting, they're not doing that for 15 minutes, that's insane. But they think they're.
Yeah, well, so then the next, I don't know if there are any comments here, but
That's my question. Are we able to tie the people that said 15 minutes to actual written out answers to see how they explain
I
certain
will
other
get that
things?
answer tomorrow.
Because that would be very interesting to see
Yeah.
how they wrote.
Yeah, how they come to.
Yeah. Perhaps they give the answer.
Exaggeration.
I think when we go through some of these comments later, we can, I think it partially answers your question, Chris. And then this one is interesting. I typically find parking close to my destination. Pretty high percentage say yes.
Pretty decent.
This looks like it adds up to 100, so that's okay. And then I think the next one is how often, how long does it take me to walk? If I can't find parking at my destination, my walk is less than 3 minutes, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Greater than 5 is a long. Greater than 5, yeah. I mean, it could be. I walk 5. I mean, I time it. Sometimes I walk 4 or 5 minutes. If I park on a side street and go down to the station or something. This one is going to require a lot of work because we told people just give us everything you got. And how many times do I go? Do I go to do my chores every day, weekly, or monthly?
Not snuggling, I just try to see the key here.
So,
Okay.
There's a lot of people that go to church.
yeah, I was surprised on that. Well, it says nonprofit / common
Yeah.
church.
Well,
But
then that's
weekly
weekly, so that
church.
would be every
Yeah.
Sunday,
Yeah,
so it's
sort of.
not
Sort of makes sense.
unusual.
Take commuter rail or public transportation. So there were people that filled that out. Walkabout.
What are the two middle ones? Service provider something?
Yeah, well, I think one of them is like,
One was accountant or something, and one
yeah.
was medical.
service provider. I believe the first one is accountant, legal, technical, finance, insurance.
Yeah.
And the second one was like hair, nails. And the third was medical. But I think this is where we really need to kind of look at the individual returns and see if we can make more sense out of them.
Yeah, because those are monthly, both of those are massively monthly ones.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it does make sense. You're not getting your hair cut weekly.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Time of day. Looks, so dining out and takeout is understandably night after 5. Almost everything is during the day. That's sort of makes
It's
sense.
pretty lopsided.
Yeah. And this gives you a little bit more of that detail. I'm kind of surprised that the
So-
service providers, like accounting, legal, technical, finance, insurance,
So work in downtown Reading is 50%? Oh, for the daily.
23 respondents out of like 308
Yeah, that's not. a
filled
lot.
that in. So we did get about 23, I would definitely say that would probably be 23 employees. And then service providers, but those service providers make up, a reasonable amount. But the dining and takeout is pretty high, and then chores is
Mhm.
definitely some good information there. Shopping is a good sign, 210. That's encouraging.
It does make it seem like it's a Jay, Liz point scenario that this does provide other people with insight into why am I coming to Reading to start a swimming pool store? It's not going to be well. If you start a restaurant, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like according to these numbers.
But this is where you get a lot of comments. So you see the number on I think the number is the survey number, or the person who filled it out gets the, and so I think we can match up some of these things to the responses.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you get a chance, it doesn't take too long to get through. I probably spent maybe 10, 15 minutes on it before I left the office this afternoon.
Did you send this to us?
Yeah, well, I sent it to, I think, Andrew, Jean, and Julie, hoping that they would have
Yeah, so we
given it
haven't
out to you,
got
but
that yet.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll get it tomorrow,
All right, great.
and then you can study to your heart's content.
Yeah.
This is interesting. I guess it's a little inconsistent in the sense that everybody says there's adequate parking. So 54% said yes, but 47 said no.
And yet a huge percentage said, I can find parking near to what I'm going to.
And it doesn't take much time for me to find it, nor does it take much time to walk from where I get my parking to where I want to be. So, I mean, I think maybe there are some, I don't know if there are many comments on this, like further down. So I think you get a lot of comments. So I think you probably want to read all these, and this is probably where you get the negative comments, obviously. There are some comments in here that I think sound like they're suggestions, so we can probably maybe, if we all sort of get through this, highlight some things, and maybe we could take that as potential suggestions for ourselves. I did not get very deep into this. There were so many, thoughtful comments, I just didn't have a chance to read them all.
There's some good comments in there.
Yeah, but this is like, I was surprised that many people took
Yeah.
that much time
On that
to actually fill it out.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted them to.
That's kind of the
Exactly.
best part.
I mean, it's like 100 and something, so that's good. Handicap, this person, one person, it sounds like can't. Anyway, I don't know, we'll have to just read these comments.
Those are the two most important sections of the whole thing.
And one of the handwritten survey responses that I got, somebody was saying they had a handicap placard and couldn't, and that was their challenge, was finding enough handicap parking consistently.
Is it possible to get the map that shows us where the handicap parking is, like highlighted, or I have.
Is that on your big map that we
Oh,
bring?
that's
I
on
think
there.
it's on the website, actually.
Oh, and it'll plot out where they are in town?
I'll have to double check, but it may be, we have a bunch of maps on the website.
Right.
I'll have to follow up on that. I remember there was a map that did get created because somebody wanted handicap van parking. I know there's a map
Okay.
somewhere
Oh,
that
okay.
shows where the van parking is, and I think our engineering staff went out and surveyed it not long ago
Okay.
to figure out where we're at.
Oh, that would be
There could be
helpful.
something also in the Nelson Nygaard material that highlights where the handicap parking is,
Oh, okay.
but I'll follow up.
Could you just move that down one tick, Jean?
Sure.
Just, I don't know what the green and purple meant. All right, thanks.
So some people would use electric parking spots now. A fair number said in the future, and would walk 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, wait a minute, would not walk 5 to 10, about half, split half and half, would walk 5 to 10 minutes to get to an electric space.
Here we go.
I'm sorry, they said they would not walk?
So the
That just makes
blue
me laugh.
is no.
The green on the bottom, yeah.
Okay.
I would use an electric charging,
So this shows all the
Now,
handicap
no.
spaces. Perfect, okay. I see the handicap on the map, but,
Oh, is it on?
It's on, yeah, I'm looking
Okay,
at it
yeah,
right now.
thank you.
It's here, yeah.
thank you.
So a lot of people in the future are gonna use
a
electric.
lot of people, more people are interested in the future.
And people know that if and when these electric charging parking spots go in, no other cars can park there.
Yeah, that would
It's
be
just
an
the
issue.
electric charging vehicle.
Is that by contract?
I don't know what it's by, but I know that you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'd like an electric charger to be in the parking space, but then I want the flexibility to use that parking space. I think once
With
you put it,
only two of them, yeah, I can understand that currently. So it's the library and,
by Christopher's
okay.
is where the second one's going. Yeah, there's a couple in downtown Wakefield and it's very clear in the signage. You can only park here if you have, and not only can you only park there if you have an electric charging vehicle, you have to be charging the vehicle.
Right, because that's what it's for.
That's what it's for. But you can't say, well, I have an electric car, I'll just
Right.
park there. No, you have to charge.
Is there a time limit? What would prevent an employee
I
from
don't
parking
know.
there all day and
I'm
charging
not
their car?
sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I think when the RMLD person joined one of the virtual seminars, they said that it needed to be near a light pole or an electrical pole. That's the only way they can get a charging station there. Now, I know in Rockport, they're doing that, and they're putting half a dozen spaces in one of the most popular places to park. They said that they would allow people to park even if they weren't an electric vehicle.
Oh.
At least that's what they said, but I think the devil's in the detail, because if there's grant money going into it to fund it, then the question is, what does the contract say? So that if they put this money in, does the contract say you have to ticket everybody who's not an electric car that parks there? Now, the town sounded like they were saying, well, we just won't enforce it. And then then it comes down to a contractual battle with the electric company. Will they allow other people, or will they start to enforce that we don't want anybody parking there that's not supposed to park there because they don't have an electric vehicle? So but anyway, the RMLD person said that I think it costs like $55,000 to install an electric parking space. And they've got to somehow make money to get that money back. Of course, they'll say it's free money and nobody pays for it. But that's kind of what they're just trying to encourage more of it. Anyway, I mean, well, I've spent the last day or two on talking to a lot of car makers and alternative energy people at MIT and stuff, and they were saying that it might, the new stuff is all about hydrogen. Is what it sounds like. That's really going to be where everybody's. It might not be the next 10 years, but it'll be pretty quick after that, I think. All right. Are these on the electric spaces?
Mm-hmm.
Charge your
a
car
lot
at
of-
home.
What does it say?
Charge your car at home.
Well, I mean, it does make sense. I mean, it depends on how long you've driven to get here.
If you're only staying for 15 minutes, it
Yeah, I
doesn't
know.
seem
You're not
like.
gonna get a big charger.
Is it free charging or?
That's a good
It
question.
depends.
I can't imagine to spend $55,000 for a spot and not have to charge for it. I know in the garages downtown Boston, they charge for it.
I think they charge you to just say what you just said. That's how Boston works. Nothing's free.
So this was where do people really want to park? CVS rear law is obvious, cobblestone parking, pretty high. Depot,
Street.
yeah, pretty. I was kind of surprised, Main Street and Haven are pretty popular. But Main Street's okay, because that turns over pretty fast. I've never had a problem finding parking on Main Street, within a few doors of where I need to park.
Yeah, me really, same thing.
And is it easy or difficult to park there? It's pretty. Looks like,
50/50
Oh,
on
no big
CVS,
surprise.
right on the.
yeah, that's interesting.
Tie.
The cobblestone is more difficult. I can understand that because there's just so few spaces really.
Well, it's easy to park in the CVS parking lot if you're using it beyond what you're supposed to be, because it's not, there's no consequences. And then it's difficult if you're trying to do a short visit.
Right.
Like when I go to drop my dog off at the Rough and Ready, you know, she said to me, "Gene, it's a big problem back here." And I'm like, "I never have a problem." She said, "Well, that's because you come early."
Mhm.
Later on in the day, it's very easy at 8 o'clock in the morning. I never have a problem. I go every 5 weeks and park in the CVS parking lot, easy.
Hmm.
But for everybody else that's coming later, it's hard. So I think it's time of day is part of it,
Time of day and length of parking.
and length, yeah. But it's tough for the businesses that are looking for a quick stop, and we know what's going on back there. It's, the employees are parking.
Yeah, it all comes down to getting the employees out and giving them somewhere to park.
I think you said that early on, Tom. It's
It's early in the morning, you're right, you know, you get in and out.
In and
But
out.
then the people that are there coming in for the
To
day,
work.
see, you're going up to town hall, but some people come in work and they're there. And then if you come in, as we've already said, later in the day, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I don't know if now's the time to mention it, but I talked to some of the people out there, and it's funny you use that example, because I have a little driveway there that is private, and someone just pulled in, and I said, "Excuse me, yeah, I happen to go," and they said, "Well, I'm just picking up my dog, and I get a call, they're ready, and I can't find a spot," and you let them know. I was kind of surprised that I think we're aware of that out front on the cobblestone, there's 4 30-minute spots out there, but there's no 30-minute spots in the back. And I would think that, and that's one thing I wish we had brought up to the chief is, I know it's tough to enforce, but if he's going to enforce something, I think if he could enforce that 30-minute, I think it would make the flow of traffic through Brandy Court and also through CVS, because I've specifically asked some people, they're going into, you think of a CVS for a prescription, they're going the dog, or they're going to Town Pizza to pick up a pizza, they're going to Nero's to pick up, so there's quite a few venues along there where they could jump in and out. And we watched it sounds critical, but we specifically looked out front, and that 30-minute spot was abused and there's 4 of them was abused all day. Now, we know why, there's no enforcement, but if we as a committee could ask the chief, I don't know if it's our privy or whose privy, but if they could enforce it would help. But one of the things I'd like to down the road say, I think the recommendation for the committee would be if we could put some 30-minute in the back, because you'd say out front, and the people say, "Where's out front?" I know that sounds silly, but some of them don't realize there's another parking lot out front. And I know there's some 30-minute down where you are, Chris, down on the end of Haven. I walk down there, there's 3 or 4 down there too, and those are full up. And but I know, and I think, Gene, you see it out of your office, that certain times of the day, it gets very heavy back there and people are trying to move. It's just a suggestion. I think some 30-minute spots back there enforced would help move the traffic through, because there are businesses that could accommodate that type of situation. But
Yeah.
I don't know if
The
that's
little
the time.
drop-off businesses, having some way for people to just scoot in real quick, do what they have to do, real quick, jump back. We know the short-term visits, that's what the trend is, so.
We just scoot the rest of this
I'm
stuff
sorry,
down
yeah.
here and then we can
Somebody
finish this up.
just joined, I just let somebody in from the waiting room, I'm not sure if it's another board member. His phone number. Oh, now they're gone.
Maybe it's Jay. Did Jay, you
No, it wasn't.
come back on?
No.
I see, Jay.
So why don't we just go finish up the survey? I think we're just
That's
about
all
the
right.
end of it. Maybe we just scroll down a little bit and then we can. There's a lot of good comments here as well. So I think we need to listen and see what we come up with.
Enjoy this reading material.
So these, if you could just scroll down, these zones help or not?
What is the key?
The legend is,
Is missing.
It's missing.
there it is. Not applicable.
We'll have Dan interpret it for us.
Green is zone works for parking needs, blue is zone makes parking more difficult, and the gold is not applicable. So green is good, blue is bad.
So what is the second and third one? 2 hour zone and 30-minute zone?
30-minute, yeah.
Which is,
People
To your point.
appreciate those and the other ones not as, of course, it kind of lines up with what people say they're using them for. The times that we could line this information up with the prior question.
and then the 6 hour on the next page is what? Massively not applicable.
What is the senior center parking?
I don't know, somebody I
Parking
think,
behind Pleasant Street Center?
Because that's only, the Pleasant Street Center is only for the Pleasant Street Center.
At
Some-
one point, wasn't
somebody-
it supposed to?
I thought it was
I think-
overflow parking. No?
No, that got changed.
I think what we did is we just took the current zones that we have
Okay,
and just
Just put
copied
'em on
them
there.
into the
Okay.
question. So I don't know, this senior center parking must be is that an actual zone on our permits or something? Because I don't know
So
where,
that's technically private,
otherwise,
right?
well, it's meant for the senior center. I think they used to allow people to park overnight or whatever, and then the people wouldn't move the cars. So the seniors would be coming for their, and the spots are taken. So
maybe they created a zone for,
I think they
that
changed it, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Because I remember my Elder Human Services Administrator would say, Gene, and the snow and everything, it's just a big problem, we can't get these cars out of here, so in response to that, the select board did vote to change that.
Okay.
It's just parking for the senior center now.
That being said, it would be nice, I know we're not necessarily trying to come up with solutions now, but when, I know we saw some comments there, people saying it's hard to park downtown for restaurants, like at night. Obviously, the senior center isn't generally in use at night, so
Yeah.
if it could have more flexibility,
Yeah.
not overnight,
Yeah.
but.
Yep.
senior center parking, 9 to 5 or whatever the hours are. What's the hours
Yeah,
of
their
senior center?
programming usually ends around 3, I think, or 4.
Yeah, they usually wrapped up by 4 o'clock.
So like after 5, would be okay.
I mean, yeah.
Comments?
Cliques need to give tickets or tow.
Some New Hampshire plates. Anything else beyond this?
Let me know if you want me to go faster or slower, I'll just guess.
Leave it to everybody to read these later.
We have the gist of it.
Not in downtown Reading. .
What's the legend now?
Daily is green, weekly is blue, gold is monthly, and teal is quarterly.
I mean, another part of Reading could be, you know, Walker Brook Drive.
Sure
I
it
mean,
is.
I would think that that makes, I don't think we put Linfield in here.
I think people might have, under other, written that in,
Is that right?
Linfield.
Yeah, Market Basket, okay.
I don't know who their parking situation is worse than Reading.
Perception that is, there is parking issues in Linfield, but you'll walk wherever you want to. What's the difference?
A lot of Linfield.
Yeah, but that's the marketplace, right? What about
Yeah.
downtown Linfield?
I don't even know.
There
what
is
it
no downtown Linfield.
That's small.
explains that.
There's a
few
stores.
There's a couple stores.
I thought this was interesting. People still want to park downtown, like.
Yeah.
Good 2/3, more than 2/3. 80, yeah, almost 90%. Very often or on occasion, so that's at least, there will be demand. Yeah, these are just a whole bunch of, this is one of our open-ended questions. Might be useful for us to try to bin these responses somehow, you know, develop a whole bunch of categories and then try to categorize them one way or the other. That's a lot. I think, is that the last one?
Lots of comments.
And I think we requested like emails or phone numbers if people want to get more involved. So this
Yes,
is,
here's
Yeah.
all the names.
should probably keep those off the. But I mean, that's a lot of people. That's a reasonable number of people. All right, so agenda items. So that's our agenda item number 3. Number 4 is just anything else that we have to add. Any more ways to get responses? I mean, I think there were, did you say, Gene, that there were people, I mean, I don't think this will work so much today, these days, but you were giving them out to people coming in on the train. Was that you saying that, or?
Yeah, I think Andrew and Aaron were doing that when we were doing the Reimagine Reading project.
Right. I remember getting those. So, yeah, I mean, I think we talked about the town meeting, maybe PTO. I don't know if we have other, my kids are not in school these days, so. Other PTOs, band parent, I mean, when we had kids, it was the band parents organization, it was the sports teams, the drama teams, they all had people who organized, and there were like big mail lists that went out.
Well, more to the point, just the Reading Public Schools can send something to.
Yeah, we tried that, but the superintendent wouldn't allow it.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one?
I mean, that was
The current
the
or-
new superintendent, and I guess it was only in the case of, I have to paraphrase it, but.
Well, I guess I don't mean
Suppose.
an official blast from him. I'm saying that each school tends to send out like a weekly newsletter of newsy, like, hey, you know, the ice cream social's coming up, blah, blah, blah. And usually they're amenable to.
So I called the superintendent's office. I sent them a friendly email saying, please, you know, we're trying to do the survey, could you help us out? Apparently Dr. Doherty used to had a list. I didn't say whether he did it or didn't. I didn't know. And so the response came back through Bob, because apparently the superintendent's office got in touch with Bob saying that we only do this in the case of school business or something like this. So then I said, well, if you won't do it, then maybe we could get through to the PTOs or all these other organizations. So does anybody here have kids in school that would know, or other
Yeah,
organizations?
but again, I think, so some of the PTOs generally are tied to, as a former
school,
PTO
right?
president
Right,
at Barrows, so the PTO newsletter is usually tied to the school weekly newsletter.
Exactly, yeah.
We don't need to take it to the superintendent level. You
That's
just
what
reach
yeah.
each individual school and ask them.
That's exactly my point,
Yeah,
Because if the superintendent won't do it, then we just have to go to the individual schools
Yeah.
and get them to try to send it out.
Yeah.
So now the question is, how do we get those people? I'm happy to help out and get it done. I just don't, I'm not in that loop anymore.
Yeah,
So I
I
just
can
don't
take
know.
that action item.
That would be,
and,
that would be
I'll
super
I'll
helpful.
email each of the schools and ask if they can include a link to our survey, right? That's what we're after.
Yeah, I know Birch Meadow sent something out. My wife used to be on the PTO there as well, and they're usually, they have all different causes and whatnot that comes through in the weekly news flash from over there. So I don't think it would be an issue.
Okay, that would be super. I think if we did a few of those things, I think I'd feel a lot better that we actually, we beat the bushes as much as we can and then
Well,
open.
what about, at one point, had we discussed having a public, I mean, I know the public is invited to show up to these meetings for public comment, but should we position an active, like, public listening session, like a specific meeting for public input? And give people a chance to march down here and or onto a Zoom?
I mean, maybe when we do this next effort of, maybe we could invite them all, send our agenda, maybe in the cover letter to the email, say, we're really looking for your help, please survey, here are our meeting dates, we really need you to come and help us.
I think we need a dedicated date, like October 30th.
Okay.
And if 50 people show up, they do. If
Fine.
0, I mean, at least we made the effort to say, here's the meeting, and then if we could just do other topics if
So how are we gonna advertise that for the people that have already filled out the survey?
we have the
So-
emails for some of them, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that. And I always found that, like with Boy Scouts and whatever, you have to hit people 3 times. If you don't hit them on the head 3 times, it's by the 3rd time they finally get the message. And the same thing is true with direct marketing. You
Right, so I
send them,
guess for the people that we've handed them out to, so
Yeah.
are we gonna hand them out again 2 more times?
whatever. Yeah, I would-
It's not, whatever is not an answer, I either need a yes or a no, so that we can then.
Do you mean at the public listening session or at the?
Right, so is.
No, that's for like a conversation, like we'll capture live, like what
Correct,
feedback.
but a big part of this issue was notice. And so if we're noticing all of these people electronically and through the surveys, we've been handing them out in person to homes.
Yeah.
So I just wanna know, does that mean we're gonna be doing it 2 more times, just so I can plan? I mean, if we've got the meeting October 30th, if that's the meeting we're gonna do, we're gonna need some time in order to then re-canvass our neighborhoods again. Do you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
change the message. So I already sent out the letter, I can't send the same letter. Do you know what I mean? Like I hand out the survey with a letter with all this information. Now, if we're gonna change it up a little bit and say, well, we're now inviting you to a specific meeting, we also need to kind of canvass it all over again. For my.
Yeah, I think this is just sort of like, we're trying to provide multiple
Oh,
avenues.
absolutely,
Yeah,
but,
and
but
so
notice
I don't think it's that
issue is
you're.
a big touchy subject, so for
Right,
people that.
But it's like
we're
if you've
hand
already
delivering them-
handed somebody a survey and then we're relying on them to either read the newspaper, get town notices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, look on Facebook to find out about this meeting, like, you have not fallen down on the job. You've already handed them one thing in person.
That's not enough.
It is enough. People need to, if people are that interested in this, it's been in the paper, it's like, and or town hall sits here 24/7. People can always provide feedback and it's like we're actively asking for it. And I'm happy to march around and keep knocking on doors.
I don't think there's anything, I think we're just brainstorming here.
Oh, no,
I
I
think
am
there-
too.
there are no bad
This is all
ideas.
just
It's
part of the
just-
brainstorming. I'm
Just
not
throw
asking you to
everything
tell me.
at it.
But I'm saying, I
and
don't
see
think
what
you
it
should
says.
feel like we have to knock on everybody's individual door every time we're trying to find a different way to solicit feedback. We're providing multiple avenues. One of those was you already knocking on their door. If that didn't spur them to action, it's not that you haven't done your job, it's that they chose not to respond.
Yeah, but like what Bernie's saying though, that sometimes you gotta hit them 3 times, so to what
Right.
she's asking, she's been out there once.
For consistency
So I think if she
purpose.
goes out again, then the letter or the message, she doesn't have to hand out another survey.
Right.
But she's gonna bring out a different letter saying,
That's it.
this letter's the follow-up to.
Yeah, and I think that's great.
And she may have to go out a 3rd time and say, this is a follow-up to the others, and the meeting is October, and just keep I think that's the message that is,
That's all I'm trying to
Yeah,
gauge,
yeah,
because
that's what I'm saying.
I think any and all was,
you can't assume that just because we gave it to them once, I'm sure she will agree that we handed it to them at their house and they'll still say they didn't get it.
I know.
My neighbor included, so yes, we have to just keep in mind that we're gonna have to revisit the same venues over and over, even though we've given it to them once.
Yep.
I'm not saying we're not, I just wanna make sure that it's given to us black and white in the next week or two, so that we have enough time to do this.
Yep, fair
I
enough.
think you can also check the addresses and whatnot in the survey list and just be like, I did Middlesex Ave and 30 people responded all from Middlesex Ave. You'd be like, yeah, I did pretty good. You know what I mean? Or if one person did out of, I don't know how many houses are over there, then it is what it is. If you just review that, maybe that will give you some insight on how well it was received over there.
Well, this isn't gonna break down the ones that came in paper and the ones that were done at the fair or electronically. So, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it has not, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
make it complicated, but we don't know when they submitted it, so. Yes, it would be great if everybody on Linden and Middlesex and Bancroft responded, but we just won't know when. But at least they will have responded, so. I guess it would also be a good analysis if nobody from Linden responded, then they didn't read my letter.
but I think maybe the next one, maybe if you provided them a little more information, or collectively, I'm not saying you, collectively, in our next correspondence, maybe we should just highlight the fact that
update.
you should come to our next meetings and provide us with all your input as we're trying to formulate.
I did put that in the letter, so I mean, I gave them
That's
enough
useful.
general, but if we're gonna have a specific meeting, I would like to revisit, so they're at least aware of it.
That would be a reason to go revisit if we designate a
Right.
specific meeting. Yeah.
Right,
So
I
let's
just
do
don't
that.
want you to
Let's
tell
pick a
me
day.
Let's pick a day.
October
We'll do that.
27th that we're
And
gonna have it
can we just
October.
extend 1 week, just so we can just do one last push, or do you just feel
I
like
would
you wanna
say-
leave it open? for
I'd probably
longer?
just leave it open,
Okay,
and then we'll just cut it off when we cut it off.
okay,
That way we're not, that way people won't say, oh, I'm too late, I'm not gonna.
okay.
Hmm.
There's no harm in that, right?
No, no,
No, so-
Okay,
Because it's dated, so we'll be able to see that we got 200 after the fact, and then that's a sizable sample, or if we got
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
So,
so what's our
So,
date?
so I think, well, I think we'll just, if we could just delay that question until
Okay,
later on. I mean, but number 4, so we've kind of discussed mostly number 4. We've got some more strategies to go get more responses. And then this next C, D, and E are kind of difficult. Well, we discussed the extension of the survey date. Numbered letter D is draft a demand forecast of parking based on current prior survey data. I have not spent a lot of time doing that. I mean, it would be useful to do it. I think that the other issue, which I know has come up with Chief Clark and Deputy Chief, which is, what's happening with the development? And I just think in terms of forecasting demand, I mean, we can see the demand today, but I'm not sure that we have any clue what demand is in the future. So I mean, what's the worst? I like to do things in extremes, like to say what's the best and what's the worst, or what's the most extreme on either end. So if you were to say, okay, how much is if you take the current zoning regulations at 100% lot coverage and the height requirements, and you did every lot available and they all went to that would be the absolute maximum amount of density. Then the question is, what would that imply for a total number of residents downtown, if you will, or businesses and residences? So I just don't know if that's, I haven't taken a look at that, and I don't know if the
I guess my
development-
question would be, what would you do with that data if you had it? What would that
Might-
inform more than,
It might allow us to give feedback to the select board that says, if all this happens and you have 3,000 more residential units downtown, in order to accommodate that, you may need to do something different in how much parking is required on those development lots.
But we
Or
know
something.
from the
But we're not-
data that the new developments, the residential parking ratio of 1.25 is working. We don't have a problem with that. In fact, we have a surplus of off-street parking at these developments.
But what the deputy, I don't know if you were here at that meeting, what Chief Clark said is that they were seeing 24, 25 people parking overnight that should be parking there. So
Okay,
it's kind of.
I did watch the meeting and I know Andrew pulled the data
Yeah.
from the survey that we had. So in terms of new developments and what it's doing to affect the downtown, there's not a problem. The actions of the people who are parking, like around the post office, there's one development that this is going on. It's not all developments. It's one development, which is the post office. And people are parking on Sanborn Street and they're parking on Haven Street because there is an issue with the garage
Right.
that is being worked out, and we've already resolved, I don't know, the issue for maybe 6 or 7 property owners. So that is getting resolved. So I think that's a little bit inflated in terms of it being an issue.
Yeah, I was surprised by Chief Clark's comments because it's not consistent with the actual data that we have.
What is the issue?
The issue is that some of the owners at Postmark can't get their car in the spaces. So they're compact spaces, or there's an issue, or, there's a slight variation on the as-built. So they're going back and correcting it with those homeowners. They're all condo owners. So they're deeded spaces in there. We've been involved in the negotiations with the developer because it's not conforming to what CPDC approved. So there's a path forward in resolving that.
Yeah.
That's the only development that has that problem.
Yeah, but so I think there were other issues on the 40B development behind the train station.
There's no issue on the 40B development behind the train station. There's more than enough parking there. We've looked at that and the data supports it.
Gene, if I could, while we're on that, Postmark, I heard, maybe they're just rumors, but I heard there may be a restaurant coming in there.
Yes,
Now, when they come in, will they have to come in with a parking layout? In other words, if they bring X amount of customers in, is there a certain amount of parking spots?
So
they have
because
to-
they're
I mean, how does-
I believe they're within 300 feet of a public parking lot. So I think that's where they would qualify for an exemption.
Where's the public parking lot?
Randy Court
And CVS, I think. they're
And
right
CVS.
between-
and CVS, okay.
To your point though, Tom, they're only opening for dinner, not lunch. So that's a
So-
different,
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I just heard rumors, so they are,
The
yeah.
original food pull out?
I don't have all the details, but I think the bits and pieces that I have, he condoed the first floor retail.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
what did it.
so that restaurant, goes in as a condo ownership. And, the parking, like any of the restaurants in the downtown,
Just wherever you,
it's,
okay.
we can see from the data in the survey that there's so many people coming down during the day that at night, it's totally different for parking.
Sure, yeah.
I
I see,
mean, it
yeah.
is an obvious question. I mean, if they're successful at night and then they want to get a better return on their money, they're probably going to open it. once
There's
a
no
month.
lunch
What's
trade.
the stop?
I will tell you, lunch in a fantastic location is a tough nickel.
You mean because they can't make it?
We don't have
Wow.
enough of a population to support a booming lunch trade.
Yeah,
There's not enough.
And if the population that's growing would support it, they already live downtown and they will walk. So, right, and that's what these new developments are bringing is more and more walking traffic, which is
The
great.
restaurant business and food business right now is so constrained to find employees.
yeah. Well,
Dunkin'
that's,
Donuts is closing at 3:00 because they don't have
Right.
employees.
yeah, I'm trying to think a little bit further ahead. And I mean, I'm hoping that
Yeah.
that sort of thing will eventually go away in a couple of years.
Ideally, what would happen is if it were really successful, they would open on the good days to be serving lunch, like a Friday, a Saturday. And those, to Liz's point, would be the days when people who are already living there or already going someplace else would do the multiple trips.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Plus, lunch trade, business supports lunch trades in most communities. We're a
Yes.
bedroom community,
Yes,
so.
there's not enough employees. People in town hall, maybe one or two go out to lunch. We don't even take lunch. And we're probably one of the biggest employers in the downtown.
Yeah, because I've been to the Thai restaurant for lunch. That gets a pretty decent business. I mean, I don't know if what they're doing these days. This was pre-COVID.
It's when you have only 3 spots for lunch, then more people are going to the 3 spots as opposed to 30. You know what I mean? And that's would be my input on it.
So Bunratty's and all those places aren't open for lunch.
Bunratty is, no, they do a good lunch trade.
Biltmore, isn't?
Biltmore, do they open for lunch?
No.
Venetian Moon told me in March, April, when I spoke to the owner over there, that she doesn't open for lunch because there's no parking. Which somewhat contradicts Jean's point of the lunch trade and whatnot, but that's what she gave me, why she shows up at 3 o'clock or whatever, because of the parking situation.
So can I ask a question about the postmark and the parking and the parking on the street? And you say it's gonna be resolved as far as that goes. So when the developments come in, what is the ramification for an issue like that? So let's say when E-Mart comes in and their
Right.
garage floods.
Right.
And everybody needs a place to park and it's, gonna snow in 3 days. How does the town accommodate those kinds of issues? Or does the building owner have to accommodate those kinds of issues? Because it's gonna pour all over downtown.
Yeah.
When those things happen. Are there plans in place for things like
Yes.
that?
Yep, the CPDC approves the plans. The problem is that the plans, when we sign off on them, in the case of post office, it was the height of the pandemic. So they hadn't striped, when we went to do the final, they hadn't striped it yet. And people were nervous about going underground in a garage during the international public health pandemic. So we went by the plan. And when we finally went there and it was not correct. So they had incorrectly striped, did not conform to the plan, which happens, unfortunately. So now it's up to the developer to correct that. He's deeded these parking spaces to the unit owners that are incorrect. So he has a legal obligation beyond the town, but we work hand in hand with the property owners to get the developer to fix this. So that's why we're involved, to hold their feet to the fire, which is what we do with developers all the time.
So once they're done restriping, and it's completely arbitrary, let's say they're supposed to have 100 spaces and now they only have 80. For those 20 people
Yeah,
that don't have
it's
space.
complicated. There's outdoor spaces that they're navigating with people and saying, would you park outside in the
There.
off-street parking lot that is an outdoor parking lot on their property. So they're navigating their way to resolve.
Okay,
But
but
it
it's
is
not ever
complicated.
gonna be impacted on the quote main streets that
No,
we're
they
trying to
have,
figure
they
out.
have an obligation and they have to go back to CPDC with the path forward on correcting this. And that's what staff's working hard to get done. It probably will be on CPDC in November. That's probably where you'll get,
Were there more spaces sold than were allotted than were striped?
no,
Because if you
the
correct the
problem was
striping,
the
does it reduce the
size.
total?
It's complicated. There's somewhat, the size was a little off and then the car doors were, it was just complicated. But CPDC will get into all of this in November if anyone's interested. I think they're gonna walk through all the issues and how it's gonna get resolved. But once it does get resolved, then the overflow onto Sanborn and Haven will stop. I mean,
As long as they don't, like what Karen was saying, if they deeded 100 spaces,
No, it
but
wasn't.
once
No.
they reline
No.
it, they only have 90. does that mean-
CPDC approved a plan with X number of spaces and that's what has to be discussed.
Plus, I heard they own some open spaces.
Exactly.
They own it in open, and the question is, they probably told someone you can park under, and now they gotta work it out, where you go outside.
Right.
But from what I understand, they have enough spaces
Yeah.
that they own.
Yeah.
It's a question whether it's under or
Yes.
outside.
Okay.
I only brought it up because I was wondering if that's where, if they come, when the restaurant gets open, if that, but you've answered and the
Yeah.
restaurant will be at night, and those people come and go. So.
Yep. Yeah, that parking is really dedicated residential parking.
Sure, they'll be parking in the bank across the street at night.
Here's hoping, I mean, that would be a great
Well,
use of
we
of shared space.
We promote that. We would love to, like I've talked about, have some kind of arrangement with the banks because the restaurants use it at night and the banks use it during the day. And instead of making more paved areas, why not maximize the use of the areas that are already paved? Whether they're private or, shared parking is what we're promoting.
And as it's been said, they can use Brandy or CVS and walk down.
Right.
Again,
Or
of
the
course-
train station.
Yeah, or
There's
the
a whole
train
sea of
station
parking
walk
at the
up.
train
Yeah.
station.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a massive
No,
amount of
yeah.
parking.
Yeah, after hours, it's
Right.
pretty
right.
vacant.
It's pretty vacant now.
I mean,
Hopefully it'll get back, but still, yeah. that's
people at
nice.
work are telling me that the red line is starting to get busier again.
Yeah.
Starting to get pretty packed. So I think maybe people are starting to get more involved with public transportation. So it wouldn't surprise me that the commuter rail starts to get.
Yeah, particularly once they get these rail repairs done, right? Because as it
Yeah.
is right now, there's all the shuttles. And
Fortunately, all the repairs seem to be to the red line now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it would be, I still think when I look at the development in Cambridge, Somerville, and you get a lot of density, the parking just spills out everywhere. And to try to drive down those streets, it's just, you have parking on both sides of the street. It's a two-way street, and there's only one room for one car, one way. So, I mean, I
But
guess
it's
that's
designed that
what,
way because they want you to slow down if there's a car coming towards you versus being able to fly through it. Because they want to focus on pedestrian and biking and transit and not for drivers. So that's why like Somerville and Cambridge are designed that way.
I understand that, Jay, but it's totally dysfunctional. Because what's happened is that would be true if the development was contained based on the amount of space available for sidewalks and roads, and there's a lot of off-street parking. The problem is that when the condo stuff, and then you go up 2 or 3 stories beyond what the driveway was built for,
So it's not,
no longer can so you put another 2 or 3 floors on top of what used to be a 2-family house, and now all of a sudden you've got 2 more families with 2 more cars each, and then the driveway isn't big enough. So they all wind up parking on the street. And
that's what they want. Because they want to slow cars down. They don't,
It's
they
not
want
about,
to make traffic
it's
calm.
not
They
about
wanna-
slowing cars down, it's just dysfunctional, it just doesn't work. All I'm trying to say is that it
It actually
depending
works really
on,
well. I lived in Somerville. It works very well. There's ample parking both off and on street, and there's tons of different ways to get around.
I mean, I respectfully disagree, it's a nightmare. I mean, I try to go down there even at 5 or 5:30 in the morning to try to get through there to the YMCA.
You drive though, right?
Yeah, I drive from Reading to Cambridge.
So if you tried a different method, like if you tried, taking transit, or if you tried taking, if you park, you can do it. There's ways to do it.
At some point, Jay, you have to just trust me. Because if I'm gonna be on the handball court at 6 AM at the Cambridge YMCA, and I'm leaving Reading, and the first train from Reading doesn't leave until 6 in the morning, and then I have to go from the train station to North Station to the Red Line up to Cambridge, and I wanna do that and get there on the court I wanna get there at 5:45, it's a little impossible to execute what you're saying, and I'm not the only one who does this.
But I've driven in Somerville all over, and I've never had it be dysfunctional.
I'll take you some,
Yeah, you
I'll
have to
do
go
it,
slow,
I'll do it, and
you
I'll take you a
walk.
video.
All right, well, we don't really need to
All I'm
solve
trying
the
to say-
parking
This is a lot of
problems
topics, so we should probably get back.
of Somerville, so.
All I'm trying to say is that there's a future potential impact on parking if the development, takes place, because
Yeah, but with our
And I
current
understand.
zoning, it's already accommodated. We have 1.25
I'm saying that
spaces.
well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't believe that. I don't believe that the zoning
But
is
whether you
really gonna
believe it or
work.
not, the data has already proven that we have adequate parking with
But
each
the
of these
chief,
developments.
but the chief is, the
Great thing about
chief
science
is
doesn't
saying,
care what you believe.
we've heard a lot of anecdotal evidence that that is not true. And real data that, I mean, the chief is saying that that's not true. And I don't know. I
As an
mean,
aside to it, I would just bring up the fact that if there's a 50-unit building with a 1.25 ratio and all that, it makes sense for the people that live there. But all it takes is one kid to have a birthday party where 10 or 15 people show up, and there goes your parking. And all that took was a birthday party for it to happen. I'm sure there's other events. People don't go ahead and spend 750 grand on a condo to just have nobody ever show up. It doesn't make sense to me, but like, you're not gonna have anybody over ever after you just went ahead and spent all that? So I don't know,
How do you have
but
a
in
birthday
theory,
party in a 600 or 700 square foot condo?
yeah, I think the point is that
Clubhouse.
whether you're having a,
Clubhouses?
Thank you, yes, I'm sure they do. Not
It
downtown.
works out because the one person that isn't there, then another person goes somewhere else. So, if you are having someone over, like a friend or whatnot, that means that their car is no longer at their place. Wherever the person is, then, and somewhere in that condo, there's a person that went somewhere else, so the cars are just swapping.
Well, and all I know is right now, people are living downtown and birthday parties are happening and it is not Armageddon. So I think we're kind of okay. Like, I think we need to not assume, oh God, hundreds of thousands of people are coming and we need to add more parking. I think the purview of this group is to be like, there is parking that exists in Reading. We need to figure out how to manage what we have and let's put some policies in place. That is what we're here to do, not worry about the
Absolutely.
fact that someday somebody may suddenly import thousands of people into the downtown.
But it's happening.
And they're here and it's working and it's
Well, I mean,
fine.
there's more coming. There's.
Yes, and
there's
more
like
people have just come. We have
three or
all these new developments,
four-
they're full, people are in them. And
but
I don't think they're all
Postmark
full.
and Gold Street don't have that
Gold
many
Street is
people.
absolutely occupied.
I know it's occupied, but it's not fully occupied.
It is, I think Dave told me the other day, they're at like 95% or something. It is basically full.
Yeah, the retail's not in Gould Street yet, nor in Postmark. So, I mean, I agree, we need to be proactive too, knowing that there's some issues on the horizon, but
I mean, I'm
Gotta
just
live in
curious, are you
today.
envisioning like, so I'm going to
No, I
say,
think
let's
it's my
make more,
point.
like,
Look.
we don't have the ability to make more parking. We need to regulate what it is we have.
We do have the ability to make more parking.
So let me tell you this, the people like, I don't know, certain plaid wearing, glasses wearing people who are not willing to cross the street if the parking space isn't where it's convenient, as he reports anecdotally every week. If you made a parking garage where the Walgreens is right now, are you now gonna be willing to walk from that parking garage over to Biltmore in Maine?
on the pedestrian bridge.
Are you, yes, on the pedestrian bridge, are you allowing me to purchase a spot in the parking garage so I will always have a assigned spot that I don't have to worry about?
No.
Why
Because that's
Because
like
I can give you more money
that's a
that's gonna
private
pay.
enterprise.
I'm
That's
gonna
not something that
I'm
this-
gonna pay
This
more
committee
money
can
to
recommend something for the
guarantee.
town to do. We can't have a private, we're not gonna sell parking lot in a garage. That's insane.
Why is it insane? They used to
I
have,
mean, we used to have leased parking and it didn't
We got rid of
solve
it.
anything. We got rid of it because it caused more problems.
but for me, that if I knew I was given an assigned spot that I didn't have to worry about searching or spending any time to do something and I had to pay for it, I'd be okay with that. That's me. But me knowing that I'm okay with it, that's just more money for the town. If you were to have a second level behind CVS where the entire top is employee and overnight or commuters or whatever for birthday party people, and the whole bottom floor is just the 15, 30-minute spots or whatever, the problem is solved with a second level behind CVS.
All right, well,
I
first of
don't-
all,
I
that
don't think
one
so.
lot isn't one lot. It is like half privately owned. So then you'd have to get the owner of my building to give you a quarter and you'd have to have the bank give you a quarter. Like, that's not
I'm sure
even.
there's a lot of moving pieces with it, but just, we can create more parking, whether or not the cost ends up being worth it. If it's 20 million to add a second floor, nobody's doing a second floor for 20 million. But if
And we
it's,
also don't have a parking problem. We have a
We really
parking
don't have a
deficit
parking problem. We have enough spaces. People just have to be willing to walk half a block.
And that's why, back to trying to say, let's make it more make people be willing to walk.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and from
Yeah,
the
you know,
survey, a lot of
yeah.
people actually are walking.
Yeah,
And I'm one of them. I
I'm
march
excited to
around
see that.
downtown every day. I actually do walk down and get lunch at 3 different places. I walk to the bank. I walk to the, it's like, I see it live every day of the week. People are walking around and they will walk more. We all keep having this, like, it's mildly inconvenient sometimes. So it's like, oh, we need to create more parking. It's like, we actually have a lot of parking. And part of what we need to do is evaluate some of the recommendations, I think, that were made a year and a half ago to be like, yo, was there actually a problem with any of that other than an inability to make a decision about it? I think we should start with some of the like highly informed, researched, educated suggestions that were made and say, let's go through these and see, do these make sense or how can we build on them or change them? Rather than assume we're gonna build a parking garage, which, good luck. I mean, good
Yeah,
luck.
that's not happening. Believe-
I agree that a parking garage most likely is not happening, but a second level behind CVS
That's
seems
the parking
There is a
plausible,
parking garage.
where you drive in and you're right there and you drive out the same way that you're currently doing. Seems plausible to me, and if it was 3 million, it's not 3 million, but if it was 20, we would just need a number to see if it was plausible or not. I don't see what the downside to that is. I beg to differ that we have adequate parking behind CVS when the glasses-wearing, plaid shirt-wearing individual sometimes does not find parking behind CVS, and I have to drive around again, which is acceptable, and then eventually I do find it. But that's once again with the current framework that we have existing. Once Gould Street, once Postmark, once every other building is full in here, in theory, CVS is going to have more customers. Now, maybe they're walking, because that's what makes sense in close proximity, but perhaps they actually drive. So
But the Postmark is full and the Gould is 95% full.
Postmark is full already?
Yes,
So,
it's been full.
but the restaurant and all of that still is not open over there.
Yeah,
These are the
that's gonna be
things-
open at night and it's a different,
But these are parking is never going to get better in Reading because of development. It will only get worse. You're only adding stuff to the equation. You're never taking it away.
you're adding a lot of people walking. I think you are missing
Yes.
that. Like
Well,
people
I mean, look.
move downtown. So let me give you an
Do they
anecdotal
walk to Market
example.
Basket to get their groceries?
They're
There's,
parking at Market Basket, they're not parking.
There's great parking at Market
yeah,
Basket.
they
No, no, but
already
I'm just
live
saying, where
there
does
and
their
then they
car-
park elsewhere when
And
they
then where do
go.
they go? Do they leave their car at Market Basket or do they come back to
They go to
Reading?
their
But
parking
that's their own space.
Mom,
And
that was don't even ask a question like that.
one of my employees who lived in Reading in a house, sold her house, and now lives in the Postmark.
Yeah.
And she told me that she hadn't moved her car in 5 days the last time she came into work. And yes, the last time she moved her car from her actual deeded space was to go to the supermarket and then come back. She did not cause you a problem with parking. And she continued to work downtown, run errands downtown, do everything all on foot. And that was part of why they sold their house and moved downtown, to be able to do that.
Well, clearly, we got a lot of data here from the surveys already that many people have problems. So we're
Yeah, I think we could
trying to
probably, I think
process it
what's useful is
all,
to read
and-
the comments of the people that are filling out the survey.
Right, but many people also say, of course, you find parking in X amount of time, which is not very much. And
Well,
that
but
if I have to park further away, I'm walking less than 3-4 minutes?
But out of the only person that showed up here for public comment, out of all the meetings that we've had, explained there's an issue with parking.
Yeah, it is
But her
the employee
is the
issue.
employee parking.
Right,
I
her
think-
issue is she crazily opened a medical office in a downtown area that should be for retail and people walking, not, I need
But
to
the
have.
employees work at another medical
She should be in the
office, so
medical
it's
building
all-
behind the DPW.
She was in a medical building that had a sea of parking
Right,
on Main
and moved
Street.
away from
And
it.
she moved to what wanted to be a retail space
Yes.
on Haven Street.
And then her employees, and then the other medical stuff people, the employee parking is the problem. We gotta get employees out of those lots.
Yes.
That is what needs to be solved. Those are the people taking them all day and not the 15-minute, 30-minute spots that we should have back there so that people can get in and out.
The dog
I agree.
groomer behind CVS is, as we started in the beginning, she said, Gene, people parking in the CVS parking lot are the employees of the businesses. And so when my customers come, there is no place for them to park.
Yeah, so the issues we're facing are, we haven't analyzed the parking we have. So we haven't actually analyzed the length of time that we can park behind CVS, the length of time that we can park on the street on Haven. Like there's all these different zones and all these different timeframes. So us as a group have to analyze what is there and how to to tone it down and change them to accommodate the parking. In addition, we don't have any oversight over
Right.
over the
We need
employees'
the
parking.
enforcement.
So we have no enforcement, so it's impossible for us to even know we either have enough parking or we don't have enough parking because we have no enforcement. So we understand we're gonna get enforcement, we have to base it on, it will be enforced, but we have to figure out what parking needs are to be met. So behind the doctor's office or hair salons, we don't need more than 2 hours worth of parking in many of these places. So 4-hour parking in these parking lots is excessive at best. From my point
The
of view.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
The shortest parking, like best practice would be to have the shortest parking time closest to the attractions. And then the longer time periods further out.
Yes.
Which makes sense if you think about minimizing overall walking, because people that are close, you're gonna have, 5, 6, 10 trips a day, or, 10 uses that spot. If you have a 4-hour parking, you're maybe 1 to 2 a day, maybe 3. So they're gonna be walking out further, and if it's even longer, you should have to walk out longer, and then you're gonna maximize or minimize the most of the entire system will have to walk. And the only exception to that obviously is, the handicapped, which obviously is something we need to consider as well, or rethink. I don't know what people think of that comment.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I think what we're talking about is maybe, we're trying to address agenda item number 6, which is to review the existing parking regulations, public input to date, and then discuss the streamlining of the zones and regulations. So I think that that's part of what this discussion is. We sort of, I think that it would be useful, I think, to just try to, I think the concern that I have about trying to make public policy is the inevitable problem of the unintended consequences, or the policy didn't fully anticipate what is likely to happen in the future. And I think that's the reason I was trying to understand, just trying to anticipate what the future looks like is not a bad thing, because if you just focus on what it is for the next 6 months or 12 months, and you're just going to completely blow the longer term issue. So, I guess it doesn't hurt to anticipate what the future looks like. It's just a matter of how we, and if we're going to do that, we could probably make ultimately a better decision.
It's too bad John Weston isn't here, because CPDC, I know, is looking at the zoning for the downtown. So they're going to be holding some public hearings coming up to talk about possible modifications to the downtown smart growth district
Yeah.
zoning. So I
Yeah.
feel like that maybe is a place where the kind of thing you're talking about, Bernie, about anticipating and, what are the regulations? Maybe there's an effort there to be collaborative with CPDC.
I think it needs, that's all I'm trying to say, is I think it needs to be collaborative, because I think if we try to make a decision in a vacuum and put blinders on to what's going on around us.
Yeah, but I think the good news is we're not in a vacuum. We actually have data about we have the Met, we have Postmark, and we have Ace Flats already online, and we actually can see very clearly what the impact has been. And so that's great, because that's the kind of development that currently is zoned and approved for the downtown. So we know what the ramifications will be, because we can see it happening live in front of us right now. So we have information.
Maybe. I'm not sure I would be so definitive as to say that the answer
I'm saying that there is indication there more than saying, we might develop every square foot downtown and oh no, right? It's like if we develop downtown under the guidelines that currently exist, we actually have some indication of what that would be like.
I think I understand why you're saying that, but it sounds like there's quite a lot of other anecdotal evidence, which is why there's a lot of pushback on some of the parking
But I
zones
guess there's
that
a
have been
difference between
established.
evidence and anecdotal. That's kind of an.
Anecdotal is evidence. Anecdotal is what people are experiencing. That's what I'm trying to
But
say.
it's also the same people saying it takes me 15 minutes
I'm
to
not sure
find
that that's the
space.
same person.
No, I'm saying it's the same type of thing. It's a
I don't know.
perception as opposed to an actual problem.
Liz, I think that I think that you believe that. I'm not sure that everybody else experiences the
I
same
believe
thing.
it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I mean, I'm just saying that I think that there's,
Yeah, I mean-
obviously, if it was already solved, why is the town having to deal with the issue on the parking and postmark? It's
That's
obviously
separate.
not.
That's a whole separate,
I mean,
because people
But the
didn't
point is that
measure
there was a
space.
development, it occurred, it wasn't following, and somehow it spilled over. Now, will it be solved?
Yes, it is
Maybe.
already partially solved.
Maybe. We don't know if it's not solved.
Well, CPDC is the board that's handling that.
Right.
So if anybody's interested, watch CPDC. That's where it's going to be discussed.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that there were unintended consequences of that development. Will it be fixed? We hope so, but there's a positive probability that it may not be fixed, or the next one
They're
won't be
actually,
fixed.
the problem with the development had nothing to do with the current zoning or whatever. It was that when they excavated an old building, they thought they were gonna have this much room, they only have this much room. They have enough spaces in and out combined for everyone that they sold, but some people are gonna have to move outside. That's it. It is not gonna impact your street parking at all.
That's an
People that are
amazingly,
moving outside, those spots were for outside stuff, which are now minus from
No,
the
they were
original.
all deeded, they were all intended for the residents of the building, period.
And they're still losing
Question.
spots.
They're not losing spots. It's just
How
that
are you not
they hadn't
losing-
sold them all. They hadn't sold them all. They have enough spots. You are not gonna have a problem from this.
so the spots that would have been used for the restaurant may not be available.
There
were
are
never
no
for the
spots for the
restaurant. They were
restaurant.
never
It's
for the
exempt.
restaurant.
What were the open spaces for?
The residents, they just
Probably
hadn't
for,
sold them
maybe
all.
for guests that
Visitors?
they may be
Birthday
anticipating.
parties.
For birthday parties, or so, those are, I'm sure from what I heard, they did have some extra spaces, but I think to use that one situation with the town, from what I'm hearing here earlier, is addressing, and we'll have to wait and see how it turns out. But I think our preview as is come in with a couple, I see we've got a couple of, to address parking, different phases. One phase is during the day, one phase is at night. And I think there are recommendations, but whatever recommendations we make to the town or to whoever we make them, to the selectmen, obviously, these are recommendations. You say you want how far out we want to go, but maybe in 6 months or maybe in 3 months, they'll have to adapt them again and try to. I think that's one thing about that I've seen with the parking that I've seen in the back lot there. The town has the foresight to be adjustable. We did one, and they've listened to some of the business because some of the people have come back and said, the hairdressers, we need more than 2 hours, and they've listened to them. And whatever we recommend down the road will probably be adjustable, but Reading's a growing town, and I think we need, and we've got it, the leadership to try and adjust to the growth of the town.
To that point, it's only going to get worse. I don't see how it can get better. And perhaps I'm wrong, perhaps the data doesn't support it, but I just believe that Green Tomato bought the whole bottom of Gould Street over there,
They did.
anticipating people to come. Now, you're gonna have the walkers and all that stuff, but it's a sit-down restaurant, and they invested all that money. And to be like, yeah, you only have 3 parking spots over here, and then people have to walk from unknown locations, just doesn't seem plausible to me.
But
I-
within like
know
50
that when
yards of
they
the
bought
train
it.
station, there's like hundreds of
Most
spaces.
of their people are coming off the train.
Well,
And they're
it's
not new to town. They know exactly where they're going. So I hear what you're saying, because the 2 spaces that are in front of that building were ridiculous in the development of it anyway. But that's not like a strange company coming in and saying, oh my God, I have no parking for my customers. They knew exactly where they were
The
going.
point he's trying to make is that 100% of their customers are not going to walk there. And if you look at the response, one of our very first responses, when you go down to Reading to park, how do you get there? Like 90% of them said, I drive, right? I mean, that's what
But
they're,
that was from that survey. We have to understand that that's a moment in time. And we haven't even,
Yeah.
has anyone gone to the apartment buildings and handed out the surveys? No. So I think until we get the 1,500 responses from the last time the survey came, there's a huge population of Reading that hasn't been touched. And people coming into a store don't want to deal with it. So it's our responsibility to kind of read their minds and figure out what they might want, but I think turnover is a huge part of here. We can't predict, turnover is the success of the stores. It gets people in, moving them around and whatever, so now a huge problem is employees parking and no restriction, no
Enforcement.
compliance, no enforcement. So, tweaking the streets that we have, I don't think I may have thought we needed a garage 3 years ago. I don't think we need a garage. I think that would just take away a lot to the look of the town and everything, but what are the problems that you anticipate?
Or,
And the people that are like off, like that have off-street parking that are in downtown because they're in one of these buildings, they're gonna be sort of indifferent to the survey, so they're probably not gonna be showing up here.
Right.
They're not gonna want to fill out the survey because they're like, well, I just walk everywhere, so I don't really care about parking in downtown. I have my own private spot and that's fine. So that's something I do think that should be considered. I also have one other question for kind of the group, just to see what they think. What percentage of the problem do you think would be removed if we fixed it so that employees were not parking where the customers should be parking? Like, how much of that is the problem?
A huge percentage.
Huge.
It's part of the discussion.
Probably 80%.
It's probably 100% in Brandy Court. They start parking there at 6:30 in the morning. No lie, that lot is filled at 6:30. Every day, maybe not Friday, but I
How many
walk it every
spaces are
day.
there?
I haven't counted, but there's, employee-only spaces that people park in, and the people parking there don't have employee stickers. And the nurses all park in the front row, facing the thing, getting out of their cars, and they're all going to the dentist office. And that's early.
So where can employees park?
They can literally park on Woburn Street, which is at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly.
And all those leased spaces that used to be, their space that used to be leased at the train station.
Is at the
And
end
in
of the
Brandy
walkway.
Court.
Yeah, those are, I mean,
Spaces
how
in Brandy
many,
Court.
how many spaces at the train station opened up there?
Combined with everything was like 60 parking spaces.
60 parking spaces, so if they were just told, like, you can't park in this lot, you just have to park over here and walk 150 yards.
So, does everyone agree that like 75% of this problem is solved if we solve employee parking?
Yes,
I say yes.
So how do you enforce that?
with actual enforcement. You give everybody a free permit and you designate these things employee spaces.
Except that if they don't
If they
put the
don't,
permit on their car and they just park there anyway.
No,
doesn't
no,
really-
then and that's why you need the enforcement.
But how do you know that that car is for unless
We
they?
have placard, we have a thing, I have an
I know,
employee
but-
permit, you hang it in your rearview mirror.
Let me try to say it again. So I leave my parking permit at home.
Then you get a ticket.
Then you get a
Then
ticket.
just drive back to get it. Like
How
you
do-
have to
how
walk
How do
your
I
phone.
know, how does the enforcement officer know that that car belongs to an employee?
They
They
don't.
have
No,
to have their
because they
thing
will
on the
take it.
windshield like we do now, that's what,
It's your responsibility to have that on your.
right, as an
Is it an
autonomous.
employee designated space? I thought we were trying to eliminate the employee designated
No,
spaces.
we need more of
those
them
lots.
out of the parking
In
lots.
the outer core and in the inner core, but it just has to be we have to look at each street to see
I
how
thought you were
it
just
is.
trying to prevent the employees from parking in that
You can't
lot.
prevent
Right, we
them
don't
without
want them
giving them
parking in the
place
lot,
to
we wanna
park.
give
But
them
I'm trying to
another place
understand how
to,
you, so even if you give them an employee parking,
to park. Oh, how do you stop them from parking in the lot?
Yes,
By
that's
having an
my
hour
point.
restriction and giving them a ticket if they're there more than 2 hours.
I guess my question is, since I don't work over around CVS, how many employees are actually using the lot that are over there?
that's what I don't
A
understand.
ton.
A ton.
So,
I can see it out my window.
but so
But
where
where do they work?
if you eliminate all the parking for the employees in that lot
Yeah.
and you dump 50, I don't know how many it is, 50 spots on outside somewhere else, where are the 50 people going?
You extend, so right now there's employee parking up Pleasant, up some of Haven, so you just extend it further and add it to some of these other streets.
And on Woburn, it's 2-hour parking now. You can clearly change it on.
Both fair or employee,
There's-
all day
Right.
with employee
There's a lot of
permit.
spaces there that can be changed to be 2-hour or all-day employee.
So
There's
you just go
spaces.
further into the outer core.
There's a lot of spaces that can be tweaked that are currently 2-hour that you could expand to be employee parking all day.
You could leave,
They're
you could
not
leave
utilized all day.
them, why would it have to be restricted to employees?
It's like the signs,
Why not
whatever,
anybody?
it can be
It can
2-hour
be
parking
2-hour
or
or-
all-day
But
employee with permit.
eliminate- cross out the 2 hour.
Because you want people turning over.
Because you want commuters parking at the commuter lot. You don't want commuters parking here where an employee could possibly
Right, it's like
park.
if you have an employee with a permit, then you're trying to give them a place to be all day. And if people don't have a permit, then you don't want them parking all day. You want them turning over.
Yeah, you need to commingle those groups.
Yeah, but if it's, I guess the only question that we're really trying to solve is, it sounds like the biggest issues are the CVS lot and Brandy Court.
They are the largest, yeah, they're.
Yeah, so aside from those, it doesn't, nobody's talked in any of these meetings about needing more than or less than 2 hours on Woburn Street or any of those other things that are designated 2 hours. I mean, it seems like that, those are not the issue.
Right, and those that are 2 hours or all day with employee permit, it's like that, again, it comes back to the enforcement. If you get the employees out of the lot and just make sure they have enough places to go.
Yeah, all I'm saying is
Yeah.
that it doesn't matter if that car is an employee car or some random person. I mean, as long as they're not parking in CVS or Brandy Court, that's all you care about.
Well, but it matters
Right,
if they are
it
taking
does
up a
matter.
spot, if the employee then doesn't have a place to go because somebody else
But
is
they would,
parking there all
I guess my
day.
point is that they would have a place to go, they could go anywhere. Restricting them to just these employee zones doesn't necessarily, I mean, they could have the flexibility to go anywhere. As long as it was not restricted to 2 hours. I mean, if they were not restricted to 2 hours from the get-go, it would free up all the supply for them to go to.
I would
I don't understand.
like to see the number of employees that actually park behind CVS. And if the number is 50, I would like to see where 50 cars are being placed. So if you eliminate 100% of the employee parking behind CVS and put it out, I want to see if there's really 50 people that are taking all these spots in here, where the 50 cars are getting lined up. And then by doing so, are you then wiping out other individuals from being able to park where they would have parked, and now somehow they have to park behind CVS?
So I
And
would,
then just lining the streets with these cars. I would have to see the number, because to me, the amount of people that are over behind there and then putting somewhere else just seems impossible.
I think if you look at the plan that was presented 2 years ago to the select board suggesting the employee parking in the outer core, you will be shocked at how efficient and it
She
was.
did a great job with that.
While I agree in practice, the way that it looks now seems impossible with the amount of people that I see alone over there. Just, it doesn't seem like that's gonna support where someone's gonna park. I just don't see it.
Maybe another way to think about that is that if you restrict a space to be employee only, then, and that space goes unoccupied for most of the day.
None of them are employed,
None
they're
of them
not,
are
they are
employee.
2 hour parking for
I know,
anyone
but-
or employee parking all
Right.
day.
Right,
So they're not, it's not that it's gonna be empty, it can be that
But it
used
could
as a
be,
regular spot.
but it could be 4 hours, right? Or it could be all day. And it still wouldn't, it seems like it still wouldn't have an effect on the availability. In other words, yeah, I mean, it's not clear that a lot of those spaces are occupied. I mean, I think we,
I almost
It
wanna
doesn't
think of,
sound
I
like it
wanna
from our
just
survey.
record my trip to work and just go and turn right at Cafe Nero, and it is lined with people already parked there. So,
you're talking about on
In
Woburn Street?
upper Woburn, absolutely.
so-
Lower Woburn, no.
Once you get down by the medical building there?
Well, it's not just like, but then that's
A
the
lot of
thing,
that's
Julie's
residents.
proposal was like the streets that come off of Woburn, like, that's where you go.
but don't we have residents already complaining that they don't want people parking out there?
Yes.
Yes, but do residents own public roadways? I mean, they're in a mixed-use area, I don't think it's
The
really a
residents are
huge.
complaining, I live there, we're complaining about the commuters who park there all day. I have no problem having employees, my hairstylist parks on my street, absolutely.
But what's the
But
difference
commuters
between,
from New Hampshire should not be parking on my
An
street.
employee.
Excuse me?
Why do you care if the car belongs to an employee or a commuter?
Because they're part of the town, that's why. Because they're
I don't know,
contributing to our town.
Who's part of the town?
The employee,
The
so you're saying
employee.
somebody coming from New Hampshire and spending the day is
So somebody from coming from New Hampshire and
annoying.
taking commuter rail is not contributing to my town at all. But an
Why not?
employee is contributing to my town, because they work here, they shop here, they're vested in our town.
Doesn't the
The
commuter
commuter
go
has
to?
nothing to do but park in that space, go to the train and go to Boston. They're not vested in Reading at all, they could care less, they dump their trash out the window, they block it so they can't plow, so they're not vested here. Employees are
But
vested.
there are neighbors, and we have to
Not
be a
from New
welcoming
Hampshire.
community.
In any case, I just,
I mean,
people park on streets. I don't understand why there's this huge like, oh no, someone's going to park on the street.
I'm just saying that I think you are horribly misjudging the amount of people that you would be dumping onto these streets and just thinking that the problem is solved by making no employees park behind CVS. I don't see that being a plausible scenario that works for anything.
I think you should go back and look at the meetings from the.
I
Where are
can
people
look at the
parking now?
meetings, I can look at,
Isn't there a way through town hall, that we're talking about employees now, for an employee, isn't he supposed to have a sticker or?
No, only if
on
you
the
want to
car?
park in a spot. Most of my team does not have employee parking permits.
Oh, so they're just renegade, they just park wherever?
Yeah.
Oh, so the employees are not,
I mean, back when
I was gonna
actual,
try to track it through the purchases, cause I'm hearing that they have
there was
a
only a
sticker
maximum number,
to
this has been
hang.
the problem. There's been a limit to the number of permits available, so everybody couldn't get a permit.
Well, how many permits are available now at the
I
moment?
think Christine Amendola provided the data at the last,
Wasn't it? Wasn't it 150?
sounds right, yeah.
150, and they're all taken. Please.
I mean, not in the current
No,
code, but
currently there's
previous.
No, but
131
previous
that
they
are
were-
sold.
Previous they were, and that's why we were saying, make it free, have them employ. Right now, employees are already parking in those residential side streets. The people who are working in the hair salons and the people who are working downtown do not have hang tags. They don't make enough money to be able to, or whatever, they just don't buy the hang tags. They park in these nooks and crannies in the periphery of the downtown. It's already happening.
Yeah, but before.
But
if
but
I could,
now,
they-
there's no enforcement,
They
and
have
so they're-
100, before you only had 150, so.
Right.
We know there was at least.
Right.
150 employees
Yes.
downtown. And then you say even back then, there were probably more than that were just running
not
around
even
parking
purchasing.
Yep, absolutely.
someplace.
But those 150 are not all coming downtown every single day, all day
Correct, they're not all
long.
there at the same time.
Right.
But in theory, we are now getting more businesses coming back downtown and more, the Green Tomato on Gould Street has to hire more employees technically, and I don't know if they have parking spots over there for them. I guess I'd like to know that too.
No, of course they don't. How would they?
Those people don't even have cars.
The employees or? I don't know where they live.
That's a little bit of a stretch.
I just don't, if Green
doesn't-
Tomato has, say, 15 people at Gould Street now, there's no way they have 15 commercial parking spots over at Gould Street for that, built into their lease, whatever scenario. Maybe they do, and I'd like to see that, but you have to hire more people when you're over there. And that's just one business. You can just keep adding businesses and we'll just keep coming up with the scenario that it seems to fit. And I'm telling you from just driving and going right past Cafe Nero and it being lined, I don't see removing CVS and all of a sudden solving this scenario. You can say side streets that are apparently already lined to begin with. I'm not looking at them actively to see who's parking there. But the problem is only going to get worse. The more businesses that you have here, the more residents, et cetera. It will never get better. The 1.25 thing does not matter when they have their spot to park already. Fantastic. When you have one guest, two guests, whatever, it only gets worse. It's never getting better. They're never taking their one spot. The guest is now taking the one spot they already had. We're just adding more businesses, more people, and just shuffling spots. You can never shuffle the spots to fit what is already here and what is coming. Data might suggest it, but I'm telling you, just spend, I know Liz, you're over there, but I almost want to record 30 seconds and just tell me how this gets solved. And that's just in that area alone. I can't speak to anything
And
else.
you go further down Woburn Street,
I
and
can't
those
speak
spaces
to,
are
I
not
can't
taken.
speak to anything else.
Yeah, but we can,
But
and we're telling you.
Reuben Street is a pretty busy
The
street
second
as
half
well.
of Woburn heading down towards the train those spaces are empty all day. People are not parking there.
Because
And
it's
they
2
could be.
hours.
And we're still in the pandemic, it's not normal times. I mean,
So to
Those are
speak,
the other, I haven't even brought up the pandemic, that this is the way that it is
Right,
now.
but for
And
those of us who've been looking at this since before the pandemic, it is very consistent actually downtown right now, at this point, with what it was like 2 years ago. In terms of who is on Woburn Street and who isn't, you've seen this, like the lower half not being used. And the only thing that's worse right now is because there is no enforcement, because that fell off during the pandemic. Now it's the Wild West, and so people are even more flagrantly staying in the lots, particularly employees, including some of my own, mind you. I still use my little permit and I park over in the places and I walk because I bought a permit and I have it. But I don't buy a permit for all of my employees because they're only there for 4 hours at a time, and so it's not worth it financially. If the permits were free and more spaces were designated that way in the outer core, that's where they would go.
How much do they cost now?
it's like $240 or something.
Something like that.
Much?
$240.
For one permit?
Yeah.
For one employee?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
But we're not,
They're
but we're not
$240.
selling them, right?
We're not right now.
We're not right
It's
not
cheaper
right
than parking in Boston.
But this isn't Boston.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
No,
But that's the thing, but the town doesn't,
We're not turning it into Boston.
well, and the town was
That's not
never,
the
it was never
objective.
about the revenue, right? That was just a way to, like, it was just a way to control the numbers. So it's not like the town is like counting on that money. It was more that that was just a way to organize. Whereas if the permits were free and we just created more permit spaces and we're like, employees, get the hell out of the center, go park over here, and that is the expectation, and it will be enforced.
So if your employees are parking there, why wouldn't you tell them not to park there?
What, behind CVS?
Well, wherever you said they were parking.
Oh, before, when things were enforced, they didn't park there. They would go and just park in the neighborhoods.
But if they, so if they're used to parking there now, why would they park somewhere else? I mean, I guess
Because they had a
my,
permit and a place to go. Right now, I mean, and they don't all park there. I'm just saying, on occasion, that happens.
yeah, I mean, I
But
guess,
there are a lot of people who make it like, that's their practice. My team, actually, the conversation has had anytime anybody started working for me, is like, you don't take spots that you want customers to be
well,
in.
that seems to be pretty obvious
Of
to me.
course it is, of course it is.
And that if any other business where there's parking,
But that's
the
why you just need
employees
to
are
create.
always parked away
Right,
from
so
the
that's why you just need to
customers.
create more employee parking spaces in the outer core.
I guess the only issue with that is that those when you restrict something from just being employee only, how many people are you really accommodating compared to how many people are you disaccommodating? So if I want to drive from Beaver Road to park downtown, and I can't park there because I'm not an employee, how does that help me?
No, but it's not the downtown, you
It's
want
not
it in the
employee.
outer core, that's the whole
That's
point.
what I'm-
And that,
that's
and
exactly
they're,
Even the
what I'm
outer
talking
core
about.
is not gonna be strictly employee
right,
parking.
it's 2 hour or all day with employee
Yeah,
permit.
so I need to park more than 2 hours, and I'm not an employee. Now I can't park there.
if you think that,
Why do you
So
need to
why
park?
does that help me?
So that, because you're gonna have, because the original plan that was proposed said that in the parking lots, you then create kiosks and you can pay to park for longer if you need to. And you
But
don't
I'm
have to
talking
pay
about-
if it's
I'm not
not.
talking about that. I'm talking about I want to park outside the lot. I want to park on the side streets or wherever
Yep,
and walk. But I can't because it's restricted to 2 hours or employees.
But that,
So what-
but
why does
why
that-
would you, well, the whole purpose of parking downtown is to use downtown and to leave for the turnover, so
That's
why
not,
is
that,
it?
I totally disagree with that. The purpose of me wanting to go downtown is sometimes I have to go to work.
Okay,
I
but
go to
that
work,
belongs to the
I
train
make a
station
living,
commuter.
I
that's
pay
the train
taxes,
station,
I
you have
support
that
the town.
parking. You
But
have the parking at the train
downtown-
station.
There's not enough parking at the train
Then you-
station. Anybody that thinks that there's enough parking is delusional.
Well, and
It's
then there's
totally
the,
delusional.
We had this conversation
There
last
is no
meeting.
parking spaces from Reading to North Station available after 7:30 in the morning.
I agree, I used to make
I don't
that.
think it's nice to use the word delusional. I think you should have data or something to back it up instead of saying someone's
I'll
delusional.
tell you
We
what.
discussed
we-
this last
we-
week,
When we get
and-
back, you can ride with me as I try to find those parking spaces at 7:45.
I'm not saying you're wrong or right.
I'm
just
totally
saying
right. I'm
that
totally
language
right.
isn't nice.
I've done this many times.
Right, I used to commute into Boston also in my previous pre-bookstore life, and I relate. And so there was either the lot or the the resident permit parking that you could have up the streets, up Prescott, up whatever, that's where the overflow is. That solved that kind of overflow problem, and so this is the other problem we have to solve, is the employee overflow from the downtown.
Right. But I
Spread it out, it's the
guess,
same concept, exactly the same concept.
all I'm saying is that if there's enough spaces all around, you don't need to designate them employees or not. You just have to keep them out of the CVS lot or the Brandy Court lot. And let them park anywhere, as long as it's within a
So you're
reasonable
suggesting
walking
taking away
distance.
all the restrictions in the outer
Yeah.
core and just letting people park wherever?
Yeah.
But that,
What-
but a
I mean, you
huge
can't,
problem.
because you cannot control demand. The idea is that people will demand what they need for their own personal,
You
whatever they
can
have
control
to do.
demand.
You
can
cannot,
absolutely-
you cannot control demand. People,
So there's this law called
Demand
induced
is-
demand, which
demand
basically
is-
says whatever you develop is what people will use.
demand,
So I can show you so many examples of
Oh, like the
places where
highway
they build
thing,
huge
yeah.
highways, it makes huge demand for highways. They build bike lanes and then bikes are huge there, build transit increases. So you absolutely can control demand. And depending on what the attractions are, you control demand. If you have nothing to visit, that controls demand.
demand is totally dynamic and stochastic. So the thought that you can anticipate when somebody gets a job downtown in Boston, or they get a job in Andover, there's no way that you can possibly control that. The thought that you think you can do that is not correct.
All right, let's.
We do this all the time. This is my field. Very
A
fun.
big
It
part
might
of this
be.
is behavior as well. So
Look, I mean,
I drive downtown. If I want to park in my building, it's going to cost me $45. If I park at the aquarium, it costs me $20. Of course, I'm going to park at the aquarium because it's only going to cost me $20. The same thing can be here. If you want a prime space to go to CVS and for 15 minutes, you can pay, park right up front for 15 minutes or pay for something. Or you can park farther away and have a 10-minute walk and have it be free. I'm not opposed to no signs anywhere and having, people park in the outer core wherever they want. But that comes with a price where people will be parking all day in front of perhaps my house going to the commuter rail. My street is not a commuter rail parking lot.
Well,
And it's just me going in front of your house to park because I want to go to,
people park in front of my
I'm
house all
sure
day
they
long.
do, but the
I have no
the
problem
goal
with
is
it.
to manage the parking spaces that we have. And if we decide as a solution that all the outer core needs nothing and everybody can just park wherever, it's going to come with a whole handful of problems where the employees and the residents aren't going to be able to find parking because all of a sudden the use is going to change from what it technically should be. So
I don't see how,
Yeah, there have to be some controls.
there has to be some control
Why?
because the commuters, like I said, the out-of-state commuters, Reading's very, very, very appealing, but Woburn is right over there. Do you know what I mean? So it's not, we have
so
so many
somebody's coming down
spaces.
93 to take the train, why would they go to Reading when they can go to when they can go to the Anderson station? Why would they,
Because
when they
apparently
can
there's
get
now
right
gonna
off
be free
there?
parking everywhere all day.
Because it's free here.
Couldn't you
You
keep
can
the
talk then.
employees out of the CVS lot and the Brandy Court lot if those two lots are only 15-minute, 30-minute, 2-hour maximums?
Yeah, if there's enforcement, sure.
So then you don't have to really have employees.
But you have to, then you're just getting to the idea of like, you either give them somewhere specific to go with the types of things we have right now, employee parking all day with permit or 2-hour, or you have willy-nilly free-for-all, anybody can park anywhere outside of the outer core. Those are ideas to explore, for sure. And I think that the
Maybe-
main thing is getting them out of the lots.
Is there 150 outer core parking spots in the downtown area?
We'll have to look at the map.
Yeah, it's a useful
But
calculation to
but
make.
you can say yes, but if there is
I can
100,
say yes because
but if
Julie
there's-
did that analysis already.
but if there is 150 and we have 150 employees, sounds good to me, except the problem ends up being when a non-employee parks in the parking spot, which is gonna happen more likely
Which is
than
why you
not.
have parking with employee permit all day or 2-hour without. That's exactly what that is for. So that you don't have people, so that's why when an employee gets there in the morning, it's like, all right, here's my all-day spot. Or and if it isn't taken, then people can use it regularly like at any other 2-hour spot downtown. That's exactly the point of that kind of space. That's exactly what that's all about, and that's exactly why it's like get employee permits
I
into the
think
hands
if
of
I
all the
could
employees.
just try to bring this to, I know we're not gonna bring it to any kind of conclusion right now, but I think it's 9 o'clock and I think we probably should try to wrap up.
Sounds great.
And then we can kind of contemplate, the various points that have been made and try to bring them back to the next meeting. Jean, I know you had some things that you were, did you communicate what you wanted to talk to us about tonight? I know you were representing the staff, you and Aaron.
Yeah, I had a presentation, but I think given the hour, it's probably not worth going through it. I mean, basically what I intended to do was show about a dozen slides about economic development and what economic development looks like from our lens, and then align that with what the goals of this committee are. But I think we've talked about that all, so I don't want to take up
Is
any
there
more
anything that
time.
we haven't talked about that you think we should be?
I mean, I can run
would be
through the
helpful-
slides.
Would be better informed if we,
I can certainly run through the slides, and I'd be happy to, but I also want to be respectful of time, and I know that Jay Jackson wanted to make some points tonight too, so we can put that on another agenda, and I'd be happy to run through it. But I think, that what I'm hearing tonight is the two things that the work that staff has done was important: employee parking and enforcement. And those two, loud and clear tonight, I hear this committee saying they want to come up with strategies to address that. And in the materials that we've distributed, there are some ideas for that. And the idea is the employees park on the periphery, free, and we get them out of these lots. We talked about kiosks in the lots, so that we could, if I'm gonna drop my dog off at Rough and Ready, I can pull in, get a ticket from the kiosk, pull in, have a free time zone, go in, drop my dog off, I don't have to pay. It's free for the first however long, half hour, 45 minutes, hour, whatever you wanna say. I put the ticket in, I leave, and that's that. And there's always turnover because you're controlling it with the kiosk. And you don't have to charge $35 a day to park in the CVS. You can program it any way you want. 50 cents an hour. After 4 hours, it's $25. However you want to do it to manage these existing parking spaces that we have. And that's why we said kiosks, not charging people to pay to park to drop their dog off to Rough and Ready or to go to CVS. But that was another very important strategy that we looked at with our consultant, Nelson Nygaard. And that is a way to manage who's parking in those parking lots. So the kiosk, the employee parking on the periphery, the enforcement, those are the three things that I would ask the board to look at again, along with the other strategies.
So as far as the kiosk information, is there where is it, I guess is what I'm asking.
Which presentation is it?
Like, yeah, so I mean, I remember hearing her presentations about it, but I don't know like the gritty details of it.
Yep, we can
because
provide that.
Okay, that would
Yeah.
be great, thanks.
did you have a question?
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about the CBDC, looking at zoning and they wanted they were gonna make presentations.
They're gonna have some public
And
hearings,
when is that?
probably in January.
So, and they might do some rezoning?
They're looking at it. The town meeting had made passed some instructional motions, and we've started doing community outreach. We started with the Metropolitan Area Planning Council as our consultant, doing a whole community engagement effort.
So, and the reason I ask that is some of the zoning that they might be looking to do, would that affect some of the plans that we're trying to?
What the instructional motions asked for is to look at minimizing lot coverage to 85% and looking at more ways to have more open space. So I don't think that really gets into the detail of parking, but it's certainly, I think it's a good idea for both boards to be, working collaboratively.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's great that John.
I think John's on our committee and
Yes.
he's there, so
Yes,
that's sort of our conduit
yep,
to that information.
Yep.
So I think he's been helpful, I think, in
Yeah.
trying to inform us about that, so. Were there any other points that you think we should?
So Jean, if you're willing to do that presentation next time, as you were saying.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. and
Yeah,
maybe we
because
could let
it's
Jay
already
talk
9
tonight.
o'clock and,
Make that our first agenda item on next meeting.
Yeah, good one.
Jay, did you already communicate what you were thinking about, or is that what you were talking about in this? I don't know if you started talking about it earlier and then Liz made a comment and so maybe you could just comment as to whether or not there was anything else you wanted to, any other points you wanted to make?
There are, and they're somewhat related to this topic, but I don't want to get too off topic. I would like folks to just kind of read through the materials and just give me your opinion on them. I mean, the video is like 5 minutes. You can only read like the one I sent was on removing parking minimums and the benefits of that. Which one of the top link is actually from the MAPC, which is our MPO here in the region. So that's Eastern Massachusetts Metropolitan Planning Organization, which basically, I think is what it's called, which basically just governs from a planning perspective various towns. Reading, I'm sure, obviously deals with them, and that's actually Reading's MPO, as well as Boston's and everyone else's. So I think reading through a variety of those topics on removing parking minimums. One was from a business perspective, one was from a planning perspective, one was from like the MPO region. So just getting folks' thought on that, I'd love to see. And then I'd sent just some interesting links about how to increase the attraction of downtown Reading. Because as we know, it sounds like the parking, obviously the employee parking is a huge piece, but if there's any other issues besides the employee parking that we discussed, where there truly isn't enough parking where people want it, then we have to make it so that where they can park to where they are going is more interesting and attractive and safe and all those sorts of things. And so that was sort of the links that I had talked about. And it was just, as we're thinking through these like parking logistics, I am just kind of proposing that we can refocus it through a lens of downtown revitalization and improve focus on kind of the user experience once they get out of the car. So I think that's a huge piece of it, which a lot of people are walking, so that's great. So yeah, if you can just read the essay that I had, I believe that one was printed out.
Yes.
Did everyone get a copy of that?
Is that the one you talked about? I mean, there was this, it was like a one pager with a paragraph on it. I read through that and I did I did listen to these other links. I didn't listen to the 60-minute link. Is that the one you're talking about? Which is the one you're talking about that, about managing parking? Because I
So
didn't,
that one is in an email.
the prior email that
Yeah.
So
you
this
sent
one is
out
an
a few
email
weeks
from the
ago.
16th.
I did not have a chance to
The
look at that one.
MAPC thing is.
All right, I
in that
will
one.
endeavor to,
Yeah, I missed
listen
that one.
to
I had
those.
seen the videos, but I had missed these other links about parking minimums, Jay, so I will certainly go back and
I'll go
read
back
this.
and look at that
I
again.
watched them and they were great, and I think part of it, there was one that was really interesting about, and we started talking about it earlier, about getting people to slow down by parking on both sides,
Yeah.
and I think it's my street, Linden. We kind of self-manage ourselves on that street where we park on both sides to slow people down, whether it's intentional or not, I don't know, but the day of the fair, people fly up that street because of the detour and they think they're not gonna make it up the hill, but I think that's an important, like, I think parking on both sides of Woburn is gonna kind of slow people down, which is better. I mean, people drive crazy through town,
Yeah,
and
they
I
do.
think anything we can do to kind of mitigate that a little bit would be very helpful. So there was a lot of really good stuff that you sent, thank you.
No, you're welcome. And I also have the book, The High Cost of Free Parking by Daniel Shoup, if someone wants to borrow that, or they can buy it, which is actually a pretty fascinating book about parking, believe it or not. But yeah, I guess, I don't know how, it's all kind of interrelated from my opinion, but I know that some of it maybe not necessarily is the exact purview of this particular committee. So perhaps we can discuss tomorrow. I don't want to take up too much time tonight because it's kind of late.
You mean,
Tomorrow?
the
Or not
next, you mean
tomorrow, I'm sorry, the
next
next meeting.
October,
tomorrow.
October 3rd,
Tomorrow, we're all meeting for lunch.
October 13th is the next meeting. The 27th, I'm away. If we could move that, maybe we want to move that a little bit later anyway, if we extend the survey a little bit.
You want to make that the one that we invite the public to?
Yeah, I was thinking the same. That's why I deferred answering your question earlier. Sorry, we didn't get to it until just now.
We also have somebody on the call that's, other than me, who had their hand raised, named Lawrence. I don't know if we want to.
Yes, absolutely. We love public. Well, first of all, should we deal with a date? I mean, is there anybody that
sorry.
would- Can we
Jean?
maybe push?
Jean's raising her.
Yes.
Yeah, so the next few meetings, the 13th is Zoom only, because all the meeting rooms are taken.
Uh-huh.
And same with the 27th, and the DPW and engineering staff are scheduled for that meeting
To
How
present.
about, can we,
to represent the Parking, Traffic, Transportation Committee.
is the 3rd of November available if we push it a week?
November 3rd, we have another meeting that night. Let me just double check. We have a series of community engagement meetings for the work that we're doing on the downtown 40R district. We'd love to get the word out with this group especially that October is a big meeting month. We have a town meeting in October as well. But the downtown community engagement meeting that we're holding is October 19th. It's called Your Downtown is the project. Special town meeting starts on the 18th,
Of November?
October.
Of October?
And we're blocking the 18th and the 21st of October for town meeting. It could go into the 25th.
The 18th and the 21st of October.
Yep.
For town meeting.
And
I won't
possibly,
be available the 13th to the 20th. I will unfortunately, just kidding. I will be on my honeymoon.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You don't wanna zoom in?
I hear Costa Rica doesn't have great internet.
Oh, there you go. Bring the wife, she can zone in too.
Plenty of parking there, though.
Do you know October 18th and 24 town meeting?
18,
21st,
21,
possibly 25th.
it's Mondays and Thursdays, and then it could be Monday again on the 25th. It's hard to know.
Probably gonna be
Yeah.
the 25th.
Yeah, who knows, it could keep going.
So the 13th and the 27th of our meetings would already be virtual
Yep.
unless we move the 27th to try to, if we pushed it the next week, would that interfere with?
We already have, the second community engagement meeting is on the calendar for November 3rd. And the 17th, November 17th is a maybe.
the
And
10th?
then we start subsequent town meeting on November 8th. The 11th is a holiday, the 15th, the 18th, and the 22nd. And then the 25th is Thanksgiving.
So the 10th is available?
The 10th is available.
10th is
November 10th.
available.
We
For
could try the 10th.
potential
Yeah,
engagement
and it'll be in the
session.
middle of everything and
And we can mention it at town meeting to show up on the 10th.
Yeah.
Everybody and.
Yep. And the select board meets on the 9th.
okay, so if we,
So Jean, could we have it here or
I
Pleasant
don't,
Street Center?
yeah, I don't know. We can look into locations now that we have a little bit of time, yeah.
so we're canceling the 27th, hopefully getting the 10th
So the DPW and the engineering staff are scheduled. Do you want me to tell them that's,
for the 27th?
yeah.
Could they make it the 13th?
No,
Well, I think we should just, if they've been scheduled.
I think we should have, I mean, I
And
know
it's
it's
Zoom only, so
unfortunately.
we can do it, because
For
it's
which-
Zoom.
The
Both
which
are,
meeting?
on the 13th and
13th and
27th are
27th.
Zoom only.
Okay.
And then we can have the meeting
And then
here or a
an additional-
library or
An
whatever.
additional meeting on the 10th of November?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
that one's the public
public.
engagement one.
Okay.
That's the public.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Now, can we get back to the person who's patiently waiting on our
Yeah.
Zoom to see if we have any comments?
Hello, Lawrence Musia, Lowell Street. How's it going?
Good.
Good. Thank you guys for putting on this meeting. And I think moving the employee parking to the outer court is definitely a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Oh, thank you.
You can talk
What a
anytime.
patient person
Come
waiting all
back
that time to say that. Thanks.
Frequently.
Thanks, guy.
there he is.
I'll see you on the 10th.
Right to the point.
Yes.
Yeah.
You wanna run
Where,
it?
can we ask Lawrence if he's, where he's from and any other?
He works at the, yeah.
Most of us know Larry.
He does the scan up patrol too, if anybody
Yeah.
sees that on
Yeah.
Facebook.
What was the name?
Yes, I think I was waiting for an update on one of his
Larry
posts.
Okay.
There was
He
something he
works
was
where,
gonna follow.
Brown's Auto? Oh, okay.
Good guy.
Any other business?
Okay, so just to recap, October 13th is Zoom only, October 27th, is Zoom only, DPW and engineering staff,
Mhm.
and the community meeting or community forum or whatever you're calling it is going to be on November 10th.
Yes.
And I will figure out if there's a meeting room. We'll figure it out.
And we'll,
Thank you, Jane.
we'll push hard on more outreach and survey participation, if anybody needs help.
Let's all keep sharing that link everywhere you can think of.
Was it on the patch? Was the link on, I didn't put it
I
on the
didn't do a
patch.
patch.
Are there any other things that people would typically
Another Reading Post,
post?
Yeah, it's not-
which is the folks at RCTV manage the Reading Post.
Yeah, RCTV does the
Yep.
post, yeah.
So the post to patch, I thought there was another one.
Chronicle.
Yeah, the Chronicle.
And the advocate.
And then Facebook, Reading Parents Network, it's pinned on there, and that's like
It's
7,000.
already there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I put it up when you
I'm
guys
not on
gave it
Facebook.
over.
I don't.
I advise you continue with that tradition.
And we have the paper surveys here outside of the town clerk's office.
In case people want to come in
Oh,
and
that's
fill them
nice.
out.
Well,
Well,
they're
if they're
doing
here- If
business,
they come to the town,
Oh,
hall.
perfectly,
register to
that's
vote
great.
or whatever,
Terrific.
we got them there.
we still have them on the desk at the bookstore too. We'll
So
push
do
it.
you-
I'll get
enter
somebody
these
in
manually?
we'll
Oh,
enter
okay.
these manually
Yeah.
and then, but we'll enter them in as electronic surveys, so.
Yeah.
And I'll just keep these as, for the audit trail. Any other, I guess.
I guess the only other question, and just throwing it out there, is at some point, the charge of the committee was to report back to the select board at some point. So I didn't know if you have talked about that or thought about that.
I think the idea was, I think that the idea was on agenda item 6 for tonight, which was to review existing parking regulations and public input today, and then discuss streamline of zones and regulations. So maybe if people could perhaps put together their bullet points on what they would like. I mean, at some point, I think what you're getting at is we need to draft a document that ultimately gets sent up to the PTTF and then the select board, right?
Yeah.
So that's, and so my, the agenda, where was it? The agenda item, I gave, I think it was Julie, 2 agendas ahead tonight and then October 13th. The October 13th agenda, we had the normal 1 and 2 minutes, public input. Review, then the number 3 agenda item was the review of prior parking survey data from and other input. Finalize demand and supply forecasts from the prior meetings. Draft recommended parking regulations and public input to date. Discuss streamline of zones and regulations. So the objective for that next meeting would be to somehow create a first draft of what I was hoping that we would kind of have some coalition or coalescence of what, we discussed tonight. So maybe what people could do is if you could just sort of think about it, summarize it, put your thoughts down on paper. If everybody could do that, we could collect it and then start putting that in the form of some sort of draft. Then that would be the 13th. By the 27th, we could maybe have a draft and then get that out to the public. And, we'll see what kind of holy heck that rains down upon our heads. And then that might be a good segue into that other meeting when we have more public input. And then I think right after that, sort of end of November, would be ideal if we could just finalize the recommendations and send them up. I mean, we can always delay, but I'm just trying to, nothing like a good deadline to get things done.
So is it safe to say that we're looking for a deadline by
End
December
of November,
1st?
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
And then,
And for the community forum on November 10th, I guess that probably worth having some more thought about what would that look like? Would it be?
Yeah.
looking at the data that's been collected so far in some way and asking for feedback on those ideas. There are other ideas that we've talked about, but we haven't, I don't think it's solidified in any of the reports about, seeing about if the church parking lot at XYZ Church could be something that the town could engage with them and lease, and we've talked about that. And now there's, 50 more parking spaces in the supply because we're engaging with XYZ Church or XYZ Bank. At night, the town says, we'll rent it we'll lease it from you and take all the liability. Just let the restaurant customers use the bank parking lot to park at night. Those kinds of ideas to add to the supply and to solidify some of
Are those, if somebody just decides to park there at night, is there signage that restricts people from doing that?
I'm sure people will tell you that they park in this parking lot and that parking lot that's private and they never have a problem.
Yeah. That's part of the working, it's a village, it takes everybody to sort of make it happen. It sort of happens
Yes.
right now without a lot of formality.
Yep.
And, sometimes that's the way things work.
Yeah.
But I think we have not, that was one of the ideas tonight, which was, I know we didn't have any answers to it, but just, 4A was member reports from their outreach to nonprofit owners, private property owners, which is sort of we didn't have any discussion about that tonight. But it would be useful probably to have that as a follow-on, as an open item that we could try to close next meeting maybe, or the meeting
Well, I
after
think
that.
I think maybe the open item at the next meeting is assigning or getting people to volunteer, like I'll talk to Eastern Bank, I'll talk to this church,
Yeah.
I'll talk to whatever, because I don't think anybody's probably just taking that on themselves.
Yeah, if people can do that, that would be great. I'll do some,
I was talking to somebody about that subject a couple weeks ago, and they told me that one of the churches, the town used to plow for them, and then his predecessor said, we're not gonna do that anymore, and they in turn said, well, we don't want you guys parking there. Is it possible to open that, to reverse that and have the DPW plow them in turn for letting us park?
Yeah, I don't remember the details of that, but I remember it, and it was a big deal. I think it was at town meeting that it got discussed, and I think the better option, especially since we already have the legal document drafted, is to say the town can lease this from you, XYZ Church. Maybe we'll even pay you, I don't even know, I don't wanna spend money for the town, but some arrangement that we would actually be leasing that spaces. Now we have a legal arrangement, we've accepted the liability if anybody has a fall or anything else, we already have the insurance. If you fall in a park, we're already doing this, so it's not a problem. That's a little bit cleaner, I think, to do it that way, but I know what you're saying, because I've even had
some of the consideration could be we plow your lot.
Yeah, that's
I
what
think
was happening.
I think there was a problem with that.
Maybe we could get a report back from
Yeah.
either town council or whatever.
Yeah, I can
'cause
go
I don't
back to
remember
it.
it, and it
Yeah,
doesn't sound like
I remember it, but I don't remember the details.
And maybe, Bob has a memory of
I'm
that.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe it's because we didn't have the liability in the past that suddenly it was a thing.
Yeah, the problem, I think, when we send our crew on a private lot, I think that's where it gets problematic.
Right, so but I'm saying, so per your suggestion, if we're now leasing it,
Yes,
then yes, and then as part of
maybe that makes it go
that might
away,
have made the
yeah.
problem.
From what I
Yeah.
understood, that was a long-term arrangement. That was happening for many years. We were plowing
was.
that lot.
Yeah, I
It
think it
was.
was, I think that I remember them plowing St. Athanasius Church, and then they had to, I thought that was part of the deal.
Probably part
Is
of the same
Is that the same
discussion.
kind of thing?
I don't remember what church it was, but I remember it, yeah,
I thought they
it was a
just
big
did
deal.
like a lot of lots around town.
Maybe the town did it for all the churches.
They might have just been doing it to be a good neighbor,
Right.
and all of a sudden, somebody said, wait a minute, we can't do this, for whatever
To get our
reason.
good neighbor hat back on or
I
something.
know, I know.
Sometimes.
So, getting back to the paid parking and the kiosks and everything like that, I think we're gonna have to mark out some time to talk about that stuff. you know, I don't think we can plan on coming to a meeting and having us say, I think I'm for it, I'm against it. You know, I think that's gonna be a long conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe if each of us drafted a paragraph or something or two about what their conclusions from what we've talked about so far, and then try to assemble that into some kind of a, you know, I'll, by the time we meet again, and hopefully we'll have more results in the survey, I'll work with with Kelly, who's doing that work for me, and see if she can, you know, we can get some really good detailed data on, and then if we can just really, I quite frankly found the survey results that we talked about today really helpful, because quite frankly, if you just focus on that issue, it's almost like we could solve the problem with, you know, some 15, 30, I mean, the fact that nobody's there for more than 2 hours anyway, it seems like it's almost like we could solve a lot of these issues. But we'll, you know, that's why I think everybody should just put their stuff down on paper. Let's get it all together. We've got to start working on a draft. And then if we do that and put something up on the board for people to comment on when we have our more open public meeting, and we can maybe get some feedback.
You want that rough draft by next meeting?
Yeah.
And okay.
That would be the goal.
Submit it electronically?
Yeah, I think it has to go through
Submit it
staff.
to Andrew or like submit it through town hall.
Yeah, you guys can't
You
communicate.
can't communicate.
No, but if you assemble it and then send us a document, is that, okay?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, people
Right.
can just get it, you know, Andrew's probably the best, but just get it, you know, if we're gonna meet on the 13th, maybe by the end of next week, if it's possible.
Okay.
And we'll see if we can find a way of brainstorming about this so that we come up with a useful, cohesive, I mean, I guess one of the things I thought about as I was trying to figure out how we're gonna come to a conclusion is, you know, maybe we just have a document that's not gonna be particularly helpful, but you could say that, you know, some of the members of the committee think this and some of the members think this. And maybe at the end of the day, we might have, that document has to
Well, you
has to
could
say
put it
that.
to a vote.
Yeah, but I mean, even if we put it for a
Yeah, I don't think
vote.
that's presenting to the board this or this or this.
Yeah, but I mean, I think-
They already know this or this, they need to know
Yeah,
what's the
there are a lot of
recommendation.
complexities, and I'm not sure that a vote is necessarily the right way to,
Well, let's see where we
decide
end
this
up
issue.
with what everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get the drafts and see what they say.
I would like to ask just actually the town staff, because I'm questioning whether or not you can share documents back and forth in between the meetings, as long as they're all submitted as like an attachment to the meeting minutes. And it's just, my wife is in a lot of these in public schools, and so she says that the way that they do it is they'll have a bunch of documents going back and forth between the committee members. And then at the end, it all gets submitted either as a final or whatever to the meeting minutes, so that's how it's in public. I don't know if, I mean, that's not necessarily Reading, you know, she works in Concord and in Wellesley, but I'm curious if that is something that we can do to kind of streamline things.
So I would like to defer to our select board representative about the open meeting law and the ongoing legal battle that the town is being challenged with, and it's,
I would highly advise against sending
Must
any
it be?
emails beyond one person and that's it. Doesn't matter how innocuous it is. I personally have sent stuff that I've got hit back with, I can't reply because it's an open meeting law, which I disagree with because I don't think that it is, but, you know, I have to trust that it's being done for the right reasons, but we can't do anything. That's why this document had to be given out here as opposed to that, because now I know which direction you want to go with certain things. It's like a form of deliberation. So as much as it would make things easy, it's,
In lawsuits about, I don't want to, we obviously don't.
yeah.
want-
it's as much as it would make things so much more easier, and obviously to do it your way sounds fantastic, because then everyone gets to see everything. What's the downside? But there's lots of downsides, unfortunately, so. But yeah, just send them right over to Jean and Andrew.
Yep.
And that's it. And
You can't get in
And I
trouble
was
that
talking
way.
about sending them to Gene and Andrew and then having them distribute them to us, but if there's lawsuits, then it's probably not even worth.
it's
legal
not that,
bills-
it's a loophole that I tried to see why this seems to be possible for certain people, and then, it's actually not possible. So we'll leave it at that.
Sounds good.
Any other business, or do we have any
Well,
motions?
two things. One, when are we getting our park jackets? So not really.
Tom
And
is
then-
working on it as we speak.
I just want to make everybody aware of the Economic Development Forum next week.
Thank you.
Because I know people are very interested in things that are going on downtown and what plans are. And so there's some reporting out happening at that. It's always a good time every year, the Economic Development Forum. Woo.
I forget the date and time on it.
That is Tuesday.
Wednesday,
Wait, hold on.
Wednesday, October 6th.
Yes. Yes, it is Wednesday. And that's a hybrid thing, so you can go in person at the Pleasant Street Center or dial in.
7 o'clock.
It is actually at 6.
Senior Center, Pleasant Street?
Pleasant Street Center.
Is it 6 o'clock, is that right, Jane?
I'm
feel like it's an
double
early
checking
start.
so that I get it right. I should know, but 5:30 to
It's
7:30.
5:30, I thought my calendar was wrong. Okay. Yep.
7 o'clock, that's the whole thing.
And it's on the website if anybody wants to find it on the calendar.
Any other comments? Before we entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. 7:36, Gene. I mean,
9:36.
7:36, 8:36.
9:36.
9:30.
9:36.
We're doing good.
It's time, it's clearly my judgment at this point.
Thank you, Jay, for your
Thanks, Jay.
Stay in, Jay.
remoteness.
Yeah, if you want more links, I can try to send more through the group.
Yeah,
I'll take
enjoy your honeymoon.
I love your stuff. Well, you're with us on the 13th, but not the next one, is that right?
I won't be there the 13th to the 20th, going to,
Oh, 13th through the 20th, okay.
this week.
Well, what day is your actual
I
wedding?
thought he was gonna be on Sunday.
Well, it was, last August, actually.
Oh, I see, you're just taking, well, congratulations in all the ways.
Post-COVID.
Yeah, that's exactly why it took so long, but thank you.
Exactly, yep.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you have any extra surveys with you?